listening to The Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
You're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
Okay, here we go again. We are back in the booth here at the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. Now, we got to get right to it. Stony Buds, how are we doing?
So good, my dog.
God, love hearing that. To my left, we have Chris Rasman in the booth from Canada. Rasman, how we doing?
I am great. Wow, that intro song, Bud's talking there, music to my ears. I feel like I'm sitting in a throne right now with you.
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
This is awesome.
You're in the hole. You're in the hole.
In the hole.
So, for our listeners that are unfamiliar with Rasman, he's a Canadian powerhouse, known for going absolutely huge in the Whistler Backcountry. He won the Canadian Stop of Natural Selection last year. He's kind of Travis Rice's protege, almost a Canadian Travis Rice, if you will. He's got a pro model board for LibTech. We're going to talk about all this great stuff. Standout human. But first things first, where are you from originally, Raz?
I grew up in Vancouver, BC, just south of Whistler. And pretty much immediately after high school, I wanted to get out of the city, and I made the move 2 hours north and been there ever since.
That's awesome. Now, one thing we got to talk about is your dad, Rudy. I've heard he's an absolute legend. He got you into the board sports.
Oh, yeah, stuff. Big time. Yeah, Rudy is quite the character, and he is a legend. He's the reason I snowboard. He's the reason I surf. He's the reason, like, my whole life has taken this whole direction. And, yeah, he was a pro snowboarder back in the day. Like, he's rode with Craig Kelly, Damian Sanders, like a bunch of guys from that generation. Done the Baker Bank slalom a ton. Used to ride for Mervyn back in the day too. I think it was GNU back then, the boards he was riding. And yeah, Rudy
Rasman just kind of rings off the tongue too. Like good name right there. Very marketable.
Very marketable name. Yeah, totally. Like definitely want to keep that one.
Yeah.
Surprised they never gave him a pro model, but I don't really know if that was much of a thing back then.
I don't think it was as heavy of a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a ton of pros back there.
Yeah, there was just a handful.
Well, we happen to have a guest question from none other than Rudy Rasman, your dad. Here we go.
Nice.
Hey, Chris, where was the first place that you've ever surfed?
Probably Kauai. Yeah. My grandparents from my dad's side fell in love with the island of Kauai in the 80s because my great-grandma liked the movie Blue Hawaii, the Elvis Presley movie, which was filmed there. And so they started going there a bunch, and they bought a property there in like 87 or something like that. And yeah, I've just been going there since I was a little kid. So I'd say that's probably the first place I got my toes wet.
Your dad was saying some really cool stories of when you were really young. Like he's like, I would basically go in the shallows and like push him into waves when he was really, really small. And then I just like leave him on the beach and go catch like waves out on the lineup and all that stuff. Is that true?
Oh yeah. 100%. Like, and that's the thing. Like it's great. Like I love surfing. It's a huge part of my life. The ocean in general is a huge part of my life. And it wasn't until like my late 20s that I started realizing how much I took that like ocean knowledge and love for it for granted. Cause like surfing's hot right now. Everybody loves to surf, especially snowboarders. Every snowboarder wants to say they surf, wants to say they're good at surfing, but a lot of them get into it as an adult. And when you get into it as an adult, you have to learn about the ocean as like a whole separate skill. And I've kind of just had that since a young age. So like the ocean doesn't scare me like it does some other people, I guess. Still got to respect the shit out of it. But yeah, since I was a little kid, he's just been like throwing me into waves, letting me get worked, leaving me on the beach so he can go get his.
That's awesome. Now I want to talk about switch back over to snowboarding because your dad was mentioning maybe around like 7 or something like that you started snowboarding. And I want to know like what your first board was.
It was actually 10 years old because it was around my 10th. My birthday is in November, and it was around my 10th birthday, maybe a little bit after it. I had been, because I already skateboarded and surfed and skied. Like I think they taught me how to ski when I was like 5 or 6. And it was just like, hey, I want to stand sideways. Like, what is this, Dad? So I've been asking him and bugging him. And we had like a little like Costco piece of plastic with a rope, kind of like a snurfer type thing that I would use in the rare times it would snow in Vancouver. And then, yeah, after my 10th birthday, I came home from school and I showed up and there was a 122 Burton chopper, yellow top sheet, pterodactyl riding a triceratops, hanging a carrot in front of the triceratops on it. That was my first board. Yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah. The other thing too, he said that you would like follow him off jumps and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's my dad's obviously always been a shredder, so he taught me how to snowboard, and yeah, we just go up the Vancouver local resorts. Like Cypress was kind of our main one, and they didn't like. I grew up without a park because I didn't ride Seymour growing up. Just through osmosis, where my dad wanted to ride, that's where I would ride too, and I just follow him off of side hits and like the weird hand dug pipe they had out there, and yeah, just train him everywhere.
Is he still shredding?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and like well too.
Just
like
ripped.
He's almost 60, and he day trips to Whistler probably 3 or 4 times a week throughout the winter, and a lot of times solo, sometimes with my sister, sometimes with a buddy or his brother, and honestly, mostly solo.
Yeah,
like
he rides a lot then, huh?
Oh yeah, he shreds
3
a
times
lot.
a week. That's awesome.
Totally. Like he's still like eats, sleeps, and breathes it, and he like nerds out on like product and gear like more than I can even handle, like more than I am interested in. Like he wants to talk about like board specs and binding specs and like how this feels when he like changes this angle or what, and like to the point where I'm like, it started gone beyond what I care about, Rudy.
He's one of those tech heads.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, some people have the mind for it. Others are just like, I don't. As long as it feels good, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I actually happen to have a second question.
Doubling
from Rudy.
down.
We got doubled down. So
Double
here we go.
whammy, Dad.
Hey, Christopher, it's your dad again. Hey, I've got another question just to jog your memory. Do you remember I'd come occasionally unannounced to your high school to pick you up? You'd have a medical situation, and we'd have to go. Do you remember where we went?
Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to my dad for looking back. That's actually such a boss move. But my dad on multiple occasions would straight up lie to my principal that I had like a doctor's appointment that like he couldn't shuffle around and pull me out of school at like 9 a.m. because it was a powder day, and we'd go ride Cypress all day.
Wow. We need to send an air horn over to
let's give Rudy an air horn.
Rudy. That's a boss father move.
Boss move. And like I had no idea at the time. I was even like, oh, this is kind of sketch. Like, but obviously I want to get the fuck out of here. So like, yeah, let's do this. And yeah, like
Just
looking back,
imagine with
that's
him on the
such a
phone with the
crazy-
principal.
Oh, totally. Just like blatantly lying. Like I'm taking my son snowboarding. You guys aren't teaching him shit anyway. Let's get the hell out of here.
Nice. Now I want to talk about how you kind of have a little bit of a late start, with the pro career. How did it go? Like getting your feet wet with sponsors and that type of world.
Yeah. I think because first of all, like I grew up riding with my dad and he taught me, and that was awesome. But like I said, grew up without a park. So like when I graduated high school and made the decision to move to Whistler and like try and be a pro snowboarder, like I had no trick foundation. Like I think I could do a 360 and a backflip at like 17 years old, like already living out of the house. And so I had to kind of like learn everything myself, just like following friends that I met from the East Coast that were better at the park. And I knew pretty quickly that I didn't, A, because I wasn't good at it, and B, because I was shy, I didn't want to do contests. And so contests are usually the way that people kind of like set their roots and get some sponsors. But I just had to like figure it out, chip away, and try and like film my first video part with like Narcor, just like go for it in the backcountry. And like I was actually even hitting like weird street spots, like street jumps, street step downs. I did a bunch of bomb drops one year. And eventually just through the crew I linked up with, like a couple people kind of hooked me up. Like I was living with Matt Beardmore at the time in this house called the Art Barn, and he was on Atomic snowboards. And so he started getting me Atomics through him. And he hooked me up with Desiree Moore, who was working for Drake Northwave at the time. And those are my first 2 sponsors. And then I got to give a huge shout out to Gerhard Gross, who recently passed away. He kind of got me really started. Like he got me my first paychecks. He got me on trips. He got me hooked up with Alterna Films and Sandbox. And he kind of got the ball rolling for me.
Now, who are your mentors at a young age?
Mentors at a young age would have been the backcountry guys from the early Absinthe films of that era. Like Travis Rice was always a huge one for me, but like DCP, JP Solberg, Roman DeMarchi, some of the Wildcats, like a huge fan of any of the Canadian boys, like partying and doing it like that. Like it just was this like rock star life that felt within reach. Like they were living in Whistler. They were all right there. Like you feel like you could touch them, and it's like that could be me. So yeah, those guys were huge mentors.
That's awesome. Now moving forward, you're filming for Alterna. You filmed a couple parts?
Yeah, I did. How many parts did I do for Alterna? Let's see. It was like Apples and Oranges, Electro, Hello World, 13. Yeah, 4 parts for Alterna.
And then how did the Manboys crew come about?
13 O'Clock was Alterna's last snowboard movie. And after that, the producer kind of transitioned out of snowboard films and kind of was getting into bigger commercial work. It was time for him to move on to the next chapter. And around the same time, Sandbox stopped making films. MacDog wasn't making films anymore. There just wasn't really, like, snowboard productions were dying. There was like no Canadian films to film for. The American ones were diminishing too. And I hadn't really made a big name for myself yet. Like, I was still just kind of in this like little Canadian pigeonhole. Like, people didn't really know who I was internationally. So Snowboard Canada made a movie for 2 years in a row. And this guy, Nate Laverty, filmed and edited them. So I did 2 years with the Snowboard Canada movie. And then 2014 came around, and Rusty Ockenden, Mark Sollers, Matt Belziel, Jody Wozniak were like brainstorming. Yeah, huge air horn for those boys. I owe those guys a lot. They're like brothers to me. They were kind of brainstorming a way that we could carve our own path. And the whole concept behind it, it was like, why do these production companies need to take a huge chunk of money from our sponsors, tell us where we got to be, tell us what crews we're going to go and film for? There would be like A crews and B crews and just like all this kind of shit out of our control. And Rusty and Mark were like, we can just do this ourselves, and then we can film with exactly who we want to film with. We can film with our friends, and we can probably do it for cheaper too. And at the time, I actually wasn't super close with all of those guys yet. I knew them all just from living in Whistler, but the only one I was super tight with was Matt Belziel. And he basically kind of like vouched for me because I wanted in on what they had going on. And they were, I guess, like Jody was kind of like, I don't know about that guy. Like, he seems a bit loose. He kind of seems like I'm going to watch him get hurt out there or something. And, you know, at the time I was definitely like more Kodak Courage and a little bit less controlled risk.
Just going huge, just going, dealing with it after you landed.
Totally. Yeah, like I was just figuring it all out there. And like I said, no park fundamentals. So like learning tricks in the backcountry, just like going for it. But yeah, they decided to like give me a chance. Like Rusty was down, Sollers was down, and I spent that first season traveling and filming with Belziel and Rusty basically. And I had a really good year and bonded with those guys a lot. And yeah, just became friends, and we've been traveling and snowboarding together since 2014 nonstop.
So Manboys is like a real like company then too, huh?
Yeah, totally. We had like a bank account and stuff, and yeah.
I mean, we're talking in the millions of views at this point too.
Yeah,
stacking them up,
getting them up there.
Who came up with the name Manboys?
So I got to give a shout. You got to give an air horn to my man Robin Taylor, Whistler legend, absolute park shredder. Never had any care in the world to be a pro snowboarder, try and be. He just likes snowboarding. And he's like over 40, and he's in there every day doing cab nines, switchback nines, like just having fun. And Robin used to make these like funny kind of skit snowboard films in the park with his friends, and they were called Crapnito edits. I don't know if you guys remember hearing about those.
I remember the name.
Yeah. He also did like a couple of like Whistler Filmmaker Showdown, like the 72-hour Filmmaker Showdown, where you have like 3 days to like film, edit, and hand in a film.
I've heard of that
like won
as well.
it a couple times. They're definitely worth looking up, like Robin Taylor's 72-hour Filmmaker Showdown films. But anyways, their like crew was Crapnito, and then they had like the young guys in their crew, which was Mark Sollers and Rusty Ockenden at the time, and this is way back. And they would call themselves the Manboys, and those guys would be the junior Manboys. So when they were making this thing, trying to figure out what to call it, they just thought Manboys would be fitting. Because really, what are we? We're a bunch of grown-ass men still sliding down snow on pieces of wood, like we're a bunch of boys. Yeah, totally. So
love that.
It's a great name.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, in regards to what you're talking about with Manboys, we have a guest question from Rusty.
Nice.
Here we go.
I'm rolling.
It's on a ferry. That's why it's so
What's
loud.
up, bomb holers, aka landing ruiners? What's up, Chris? It's Rusty. I have 2 questions for you. First, let's show everyone how adorable you can be. Can you elaborate on being gullible, iMessage Pro, and the alleged messages from Bethany Hamilton on your phone? Question number 2 has to do with your grade 5 girlfriend, Claire. What's she up to now, and is she seeing anybody?
Wow. Thanks, Rusty. You're making me blush over here. Solid questions. Solid questions from the Rust man. Yeah. So I, you know, as I've matured and gotten a little older, I've started to realize that you can't have 100% faith in humanity. Sometimes people like to fuck with you. I used to be very gullible. I still am, but a little less gullible than I was when I first started filming with Rusty. So Rusty used to take the piss out of me all the time. Like, just constantly fuck with me. Just, I don't know if I could think of like a specific example, but literally everything. But one thing in particular is because I grew up going to Kauai like my whole life. I met Bethany Hamilton when she was quite young and met Alana Blanchard when she was quite young and used to spend some time there like surfing and hanging out with those girls. And I told these guys about this and they were kind of messing. They obviously believed me, had no reason not to, but they were messing with me while we were building Stepmother actually in Whistler. That's for those of you who don't know, a lot of the Whistler jumps and Whistler spots have names because they're legendary and they've been getting hit for a long time. And this one in particular, I would say the shots that popped in my head first are Devin Walsh informs that. Anyways, we're building Stepmother and Rusty's telling me he doesn't believe me that I know Alana Blanchard. And so he's trying to get me to show him a text message from her. And I'm like, dude, like, fine. I'll like, here, she like, I texted with her like, I don't know, like 6 months ago or something. And I pull up my phone and I try and show him. And I guess I had my phone set to like, to save storage, to like delete texts after. And I couldn't find it. There was no text from Alana Blanchard on my phone. And I'm all like, shit, like, dude, no, I swear. Like, I know her. She like, I see her all the time over there. And Rusty's like, oh yeah, she must have that like iMessage Pro thing. And I'm like, huh? He's like, yeah, like she must have iMessage Pro. It's like something that like pro athletes and celebrities have. Like, so they like, if people can't look up text threads from them, like it automatically deletes it. So, you know, they can't have like weird media shit going on. And I was fully just like, yeah. She does. Like, I think she's mentioned that before. She does. And that, dude, I just could not put down the shovel. Like, I just made it worse and worse. And then, Russ, man, what was the second question?
About your grade 5 crush.
Oh, yeah. Great. Actually, 7th grade girlfriend. I think we kind of had a little thing in grade 6. And then grade 7, we were going steady for a hot minute.
Claire, serious.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. But as serious as a grade 7 girlfriend can get. You know, you're going to the mall together. You're holding hands. Yeah.
Wow, hand holding. Okay.
You ever play 7 Minutes in Heaven? Butt grab, makeup. Yeah. Anyways, Claire Boucher, otherwise known
Is that
as
where they lock you in the closet together or something?
Exactly. Yeah. They lock you in the closet for 7 minutes.
Guilty. I've played.
Yeah. Great game when you don't know how to talk to a girl. Claire Boucher, otherwise known as Grimes these days, recently broken up with Elon Musk, but has Elon Musk's baby.
Yeah, they just broke up, huh?
Yeah. That's my grade 7 girlfriend.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm a huge Grimes.
Yeah, she's dope.
Really dope.
So it's funny. She like, I hadn't talked about that. I hadn't really told anyone about that for years. And then one time I was hanging at the house that Rusty and Sollers used to rent, and Hayden Wrench was staying there, and he's like, comes in, he's unpacking his stuff, and he just asks me about it. And I'm like, what? Like, how did you know that? Because I hadn't told anyone about that. And I guess he like was following her blog, and she wrote a blog about me and like reshared like a highlight reel I had posted from like 2012 or something, and was like, oh, so I guess my elementary school boyfriend's a pro snowboarder now. Like, that's kind of cool. And then, in like 2015, we hit her up and she gave us a song for basically free for a Manboys edit, which was cool.
Really?
That's killer.
That's definitely killer.
No Cybertruck yet though. But
no Cybertruck.
Kind of waiting for
that should be a couple months away. That'll be soon.
Yeah. I mean, she burned the bridge, but
yeah, true.
Yeah. That's new celebrity gossip. Let's go back to, let's keep talking Manboys, because one thing that's fascinating is you guys have been filming with the same crew for 7 years. Now, filming with friends versus filming with random selected people to be in a production company, what are the differences?
Well, I think there's like positives and negatives to both of those scenarios. When you're thrown together with random people from a production company, chances are you're probably going to get along. Most of us are like-minded individuals in this industry. Everyone's got a cool story, and like, yeah, every once in a while there's a dick and someone you don't really enjoy their company, but generally if you go in with an open mind, you're going to make new friends and have good times and build great memories. The downside of that is sometimes it can make it feel more like a job. Sometimes you can be put on trips you don't really want to go on, or if you're like mentally not in the right space to be socializing with like new people for 2 weeks in a small hotel room, like it can get gnarly and it can get hard to like perform and snowboard. When you film with your best friends, it's like everything. It's like you want to rip each other's heads off. You love each other. You're having so much fun. You're supportive. You're competitive. You want each other to do good. Like it's the best, I think. Like, and you know, I mean, we've been doing it for 7 or 8 years together. Like, how crazy is that we've just been like stuck together in the mountains and in small hotel rooms for that long.
It's got to be crazy crew drama when you're that tight.
Yeah, totally.
Throw some beer in there. And it's
like,
got to get wild.
I mean, the worst is like when like a bunch of us were single. Like that's not.
Yeah.
You have this like when we were younger, most of us were single. A couple of us were taken, and it was like, oh, I'd be so sick if we were like all single at the same time together. And Rusty's like, are you kidding? That would be a fucking nightmare. Like all of us in a bar together, like trying to get the one hot girl that's
true in the mountains.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like, you know, we're like brothers. So there's
the kicker gossip must be incredible when you know each other.
Kicker
that
banter,
well. Yeah, the kicker banter. Just
when we bring out a photographer that's like never shot with us before, or like a new snowboarder, like we've been taking out Sean Miskman. Let's give an air horn to Sean Miskman. That kid's amazing. And they get to know us and just like, because we have no filter.
Yeah.
On the kicker gossip, like, oh, these guys are insane. Like, this is hilarious. They've clearly known each other for a long time. And like, you know, me and Rusty, I would say, kind of have the more like alpha crew leader personalities in the group. And so like, we would butt heads and we would full on get into like backcountry arguments, but then just like deal with it and be done with it right there. Like, well, why'd you do this? Oh, I did that because of this. And that was annoying. Well, you shouldn't fucking do that because of that. Okay, cool. Sorry. I'm sorry too, man. And, you know, and it's just like done.
It's over.
Yeah, totally. But we fully had like backcountry scraps.
Yeah, that's how it goes back there. People don't always understand.
Yeah. I think another part of filming with your friends instead of being thrown on a group of, with a group of snowboarders that you don't really know that well, is viewers watching the edits and the movies after, they can feel that in what's happening. So even if it's just snow porn with the occasional lifestyle here and there, the occasional group shot, like you can kind of tell when it's authentic. And that's been some of the coolest feedback we've got from the Manboys projects, is we get messages all the time of like, oh man, we can really tell that you guys are like homies and that you guys are having so much fun out there together. And that's special for us, because it's like we feel blessed, we feel lucky. And the fact that like comes through in the lens and it's relatable. Like, what's snowboarding about? Like going snowboarding with your friends and having a good time.
Yeah, the whole vibe, that's what it's all about. So that's
well
such
said.
a good thing.
Well said. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to get into a couple good ones with your crew. You guys have a massive crew. And I want to know, when you're hitting backcountry jumps, it's important to land. So, because if you don't, you put a bomb hole in the landing and you can't land in that spot, or you'll probably blow a knee, destroy yourself. So I want to know who's got the worst landing percentage out of anybody on the Manboys crew.
Time to throw someone under the bus, huh?
Oh, geez. I'm sorry, Jody. Yeah. Jody probably does, but the thing with Jody is he puts such emphasis on style that he's not going to like let go early or stop tweaking to make him land. So where I'll like shot him down, but to fluff him up a little bit, Jody really wants to look good, and he puts a huge emphasis on style. So he's trying hard shit. He's trying to poke right till the very end of his spin, and he also goes really big. Like me and him are like very different in size, but when we're hitting jumps together, me and him match our speed off each other. I can't match my speed off Belzeal, because if I match it off Belzeal, I'm going to the fucking bottom. But with Jody, we're pretty similar.
That's sick. Now, I also want you to keep chirping the Manboys crew here. Who's the worst sledder?
Probably Jody. Sorry, Joe, man, but that's because he doesn't try. He's getting better over the last few years, but he definitely has the least amount of years of sled experience compared to all of us. Like when we started Manboys in 2014, myself, Belzeal, and Rusty had already been sledding for several years, and that was kind of Jody's first year doing a full year sledding. But yeah, and then for a couple of years after that, like probably until like 2017, he just would never try because he'd be afraid to blow a belt or afraid to like fuck up his sled. So he just let us put in the work. It's only in recent years that Jody's like being a boss out there. And if, we're trying to break trail and a bunch of us are stuck, he's like, I got it. And he'll just go and blast a little farther, get through the trees a little higher. So Jody's been coming up.
He comes from the steel too. He comes from the steel.
That's the thing. Yeah, he comes from a steel, so it's a whole different. Now, you've been out there your whole life.
Totally. Yeah.
Who's the best sledder?
Best sledder, me and Rusty.
He throws himself in there. I like that.
I'm gonna probably give myself that title. Maybe like 10% more than Rusty.
Give yourself an air horn.
Yes. Thank you. be here for a couple more hours at least.
Let's talk about the Whistler Backcountry, because where you guys spend a lot of your time, and it's this vast, really open, huge blank canvas. And, particularly I want to talk about when you're younger, riders, myself, you go out there with a certain trick in mind, and you're like, I'm going to hit this jump today, and I'm going to do a front 7, and that's the trick. But when you start, sometimes the terrain dictates the tricks. And as you get experience, you start realizing, oh, well, this feature is calling for this trick. Now, can you elaborate on that with your experiences, like in the Whistler Backcountry, like riding terrain, riding jumps, and like letting the terrain dictate the tricks you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you articulated that really well. Like you hit the nail on the head on that one. And I didn't know that when I first started. Like I used to have like a trick list, and I would literally like check them off and be like, okay, my part needs this. And so I would go out that day and just be thinking like, okay, I need a cap 9 or I need a switchback 5. And it didn't matter what we were hitting. That's what I was trying it on. You start to learn that that's not the best way for success. It's also, nobody cares about your trick list. Like backcountry video parts, I think at least, are less so about the tricks that are going down, unless they're just jumps on a roll. Then yeah, you want to see crazy tricks, but are more so about like the feature and what the feature looks like. So for success out there, it's all about letting the trick dictate your feature. And that takes years of experience. Like sometimes you're going to have a bunch of front 3s in your part, and you're going to probably cut a couple of those and use the better ones, but they're going to look different. And, landings are curved and shaped different ways. Like sometimes you want to be spinning into the landing so you can like catch the trick in the pow with your toes instead of be like spinning away from the angle of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, a big part of like experience is letting the terrain dictate what you're going to do rather than being like, I need a front 10 today.
Mm-hmm. That's another cool sidebar topic too. I love the experience that keeps growing with backcountry, because when it starts off, like you look at people film video parts, they're in the streets, they're generally young. You look at everybody in the Olympics we're just watching, like the average person's like freaking 18 years old, where in the backcountry, you go out there and you're 18 and you're like, you got to learn how to snowmobile. You got to learn how to read terrain. You got to learn about avalanche safety. You got to form your crew. There's so much more that you can do it for so much longer, because each year you gain experience and you can get more into riding lines and all that. Do you want to speak on experience coming from being inexperienced and experienced?
Yeah. I mean, totally. Like you said, like the fact of the matter is like backcountry riders our age, like we're not going to keep up with the tricks that are going down these days, the tricks that the, 18 to mid 20-year-olds are doing. So we put more emphasis on the beauty of the features that we're hitting. And like, we're not just going to go out there and like fire up a wedge on a roll anymore. Like it's kind of like a last resort thing, or it's like if somebody really has a trick in mind they want to do and we have nothing else to hit, we're looking for like cool gaps, like things that are going to shoot well. We're like thinking about the shot before we're like thinking heavily about the trick. But it's really hard to find those features. Like I think a lot of people think, especially when you talk about the Whistler Backcountry, that stuff's just everywhere. You can just go out there on a snowmobile and you're just like, oh, spot to get a banger. There's jumps there, cliffs there. But to find those large, like 100-foot gap jumps, or those like nice lines that are like safe to ride but look gnarly and shoot well and you can trick out of them, like that's really, really hard to do. And that's where experience comes into play. Like having an eye for what's going to work, having an eye for what hasn't worked in the past, what's steep enough when you're going that big, what is manageable, what the snow conditions are like what you can do. Like that stuff's hard to train over a few conversations. That stuff just takes years. So, as some of these younger guys transition out of contests and start doing backcountry, I think like having mentors and having apprentices to take them out and show them is like super important to their success. And that's kind of something that like we really want to do as the Manboys like grows and ages. Like this year we've been like really trying to take out young guys as much as possible, Sean Miskimen being one of them, and just kind of show them the way and get them going so they can like apply that natural talent and youth they have and combine it with our knowledge so we can like pass them down.
Fast back there too, right? So you guys are going deep and having long days.
Dude, it's fast. And yeah, you got to like something I learned from Rusty in the early days of Manboys is like move with purpose. Like be safe out there and like make good decisions and talk about things as you move through them. But like move with purpose was something he used to always say. Like you finish something and you got to go like think about your next objective. And like a big thing is like light. Like it's like, okay, like this morning we're going to go and hit this because it's got morning light, but that's going to be done by 11 a.m. So probably wrap up by noon realistically. And then we got to get to this spot by 3 because we have like 2 hours of light there. And yeah, you got to move fast.
Your days are long, huh?
They're long and they're few and far between. Like we're in the Pacific Northwest. Whistler gets a lot of weather. It's what makes it so awesome. But those sunny days where they also line up with like a good safe snowpack, like they're few and far between. And so you got to make use of those sunny days because if you mess up a sunny stretch, it sucks to say, but like that could like make or break your video part. That could be the difference between you having like a good part or like a mediocre part that nobody remembers.
That's hectic. So we're going to get into a Patreon question. Chris, you want to talk a little bit about
Sure, let's talk about the Patreon. Yeah, Patreon is our little community, as you like to say. And basically you can sign up online on bombhole.com, and from anywhere from as little as $5 a month, you can support the show, and it helps us come here and do this full time. You get a little sneak preview interview of Rasman that nobody else will see besides Patreon members. And anyway, if you like the show, it's a great way to support. And either way, just thanks for listening. So
yeah, thank you so much. This first one is from Joseph McCarty. What is your mental game like when you're about to drop it into backcountry? Hollow head or visualizing the whole thing?
What up, Joseph? Thank you for the question. It kind of depends. With how long I've been doing this for now, sometimes certain features just aren't scary at all. And you're laughing and joking, and your mental game's no different than if you were like on a resort about to like drop in and hit a side hit or a park jump. And then when you're hitting something new, riding a big scary line or a jump that's frightening or something you've never hit before, it's a lot of visualization for me. It's like visualization while we're building the feature or while we're like looking around and talking about it. I kind of like stare at it from like every angle. Like if it's a line or a jump landing, I'll drive my snowmobile like around the bottom of it and check at it from like as many angles as I can to like visualize what that landing's going to feel like, what it's going to feel like ripping out of that line. Once I'm up top, it's just like breathing techniques. I'm like breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Like, have you ever heard of box breathing?
I haven't, no.
So it's a really good calming technique that I use when I'm like nervous at the top of something big. And basically you breathe in, ideally through and out your nose, but you breathe in for 3 seconds, hold your breath for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds. And you repeat that in a box. And that's like a really good way to just like calm your nerves. I guess like the ratio of like oxygen versus like carbon dioxide you put out. Yeah. I guess the ratio just like really calms you. Well,
when you say like, repeat it in a box pattern, what does that mean? I'm just don't follow.
I mean, do it multiple times. So breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe in for 3 seconds, hold, breathe out. So the corners of the hold.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Mm-hmm.
What people don't understand is when you get up top, you can't see a thing. So it's all your visualization from when you're at the bottom. Totally. And with lines, you might be the only person. You're probably the only person who's ever jumped this feature, I'd imagine. In a lot of cases for your filming, right?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, Whistler's a popular spot, and it's been pioneered by a lot of people. But yeah, with some lines, especially if it's like kind of a newer zone, newer nook and cranny, we find like sometimes it might be first ascents.
Yeah.
Or it's like snow changes so much every year. So even if it's a
different
line that's been ridden before, like it's formed completely different. It's a little narrower, a little sketchier. And yeah, whether it's like a jump or a step down or a line like that, like generally you don't see shit from the top. So you're really relying on those like scoping methods you used from the bottom and like maybe a couple of iPhone photos. And it's all about trusting yourself too. Like it's all about just being like, I'm not a sketch. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to land, like I saw everything from the bottom, even though it looks crazy from up top. And like, this looks like I'm just going to fly off the face of the earth and land on that lake down there. Like, I know I'm not. Like I looked at it from every angle, and just trusting yourself, being confident is like really important.
I think that's really, really good advice. And, you know, a lot of people that are beginners or people that haven't built jumps, or some of our listeners, you know, it's definitely a totally different experience than riding through the park and like, oh, you watch somebody hit it before you. Oh, just do 2 turns on the park jump. And I want to talk about the fact that, like, let's say you go build a giant cheese wedge and it's a jump and you have a 70-foot gap, 80-foot gap, and then a landing. And you got to figure out, okay, I got to, like, do we start like 500 feet up? Do we start 800 feet up? Do we start 200 feet up or whatever? You know, for you guys, it would be kilometers or whatever the fuck you guys use in Canada.
Some cams.
And like, yeah, your toonies up or whatever it is. Toques.
Toonies.
Or like, yeah, so whatever increment you guys use, however, 57 toque to get to the top.
57 toques with optimal resi.
Yeah, exactly.
That's usually good speed. Works
That's
every
the
time.
speed for sure.
But that's, you know, it's really, you know, you watch like people that are first starting out, you build a jump and you short track the shit out of it. You land like 20 feet short because you're like, I think I start from here. And then you realize, no, you got to go 200 toques higher. So how do you figure out, like, you know, like gaining the right speed to clear the gap?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And even to this day, despite the like 14 years I've spent out of there, like every new scary jump, like the mellow ones or whatever, but anytime there's like a gap, something you have to get over, or it's just like really big, speed's always a question. You do build kind of a like intuition on what it feels like. Like you kind of like, you know, you're like, this one looks like a jacket flapper. If you're going in and your jacket's not flapping, it's probably not going fast enough, right? So you kind of do build a feel for what it should feel like, but it's still really hard. And everyone in our crew is different. Like everyone carries different speed. Like I was saying, everyone has to start from different spots. I tend to have a history of overshooting because I hate knuckling jumps. I hate it because in the backcountry, it usually hurts more than overshooting, and you mess up the shot. The photos and everything just kind of looks like junk when there's a big track, big short track, or a big bomb hole in the knuckle of it. So if I'm going first, which seems to happen a lot these days because I suck at rock, paper, scissors, I just go a little bit. I do a couple in runs, figure out what feels right, and then I bump it up, 15% dukes. And go from there.
There.
So you find your speed and you're like, all right, I'm going to go 15 toques higher. That's
Exactly.
that's
15 toques
that's
higher.
great. For those of you who are unfamiliar, a toque is what we would call a beanie here in the United
In the
States.
United States.
It's French for hat.
I noticed too with the flapping jackets, certain materials don't flap the same way. Some guys, they drop in and their jacket's flapping and they're only like 10 toques up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's, some of that thinner
You got to know your materials.
You got to know your material. Everyone's material flaps a little different. Like I think that 686 stuff Belzio wears isn't flapping that much because
it's like a thicker material. It just doesn't flap.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I want to talk about some absolutely notable A grades. First things first, you're one of the few people that can let those gigantic back rodeo 1080 indie grabs rip, dude. Let's talk about the first one that you ever did.
First time I learned a double back rodeo 10 was spring of 2012. The movie I was filming for that year was between Alterna and Manboys, so it was those 2 years of Snowboard Canada movies. I believe it was Glimpse.
We got it right here
up there.
Yep. So it's a giant step up for the people listening,
dude.
And you got basically shot out of a cannon and went
straight up.
It looked like 100+ feet.
Yeah. So we had, so it was end of the season, springtime, and the World Ski and Snowboard Festival in Whistler was doing this contest at the time called Intersection. And basically how it worked is there was like 6 or 7 invited snowboard and ski crews. And you have to film and edit in the exact same 7 days, finish it, edit it, and hand it in those same 7 days. It doesn't matter what the conditions are like. And so I was filming for that Snowboard Canada movie at the time. Had kind of wrapped up because the snow had been torched and gone to junk. But we had to do this contest. So it was a good excuse to just go and try and like get stuff done anyways in the spring. So we built this big step up in a backcountry zone in Whistler called Brandywine. It's kind of a classic one. It's been hit a lot. And we just wanted to get some bigger tricks on it. It's step up jumps, for those of you who are not familiar. The way the math works of them is really, really shitty to hit, because you have to go as fast as you've ever gone on a snowboard, but pretty touchdown landing because you're going up at an insanely high speed, but then you're not falling out of the sky. You're kind of coming into contact with the snow lighter because the landing's up here. And they suck to do in-runs on, but you get a lot of airtime, and most of your trick, whether it's a step down or a jump on a roller, most of your trick happens on that upward axis. A lot less of the trick happens on the fall. So they're great for big tricks. I was trying single rodeos, just back rodeo 7s, and I got one, but it just felt so unnatural because I literally don't think I've ever gone that fast on my snowboard hitting this thing, and you just are getting blasted out of a pirate cannon into the air, and it felt crazy. And I also didn't really like the look of the shot when we were like landing at the top of that step up knuckle. I wanted to take it like past to the downhill part. So I just thought like, oh, maybe I can just take this double. And I'd never tried a double rodeo before in my life. And I just kind of leaned back, held the grab, dipped my head a little harder. And the first one like came around pretty much like that. Like they started looking proper right away. It just took me a few tries to land it. And even that one that you just played, I actually only rode out for about 15 feet. 15 feet.
It's a quick clip. It's a quick clip.
That's a quick clip, huh?
Yeah.
Well, then you kind of did this one. What's the name of the jump that you did in the Manboys video where you just like went to the fucking stratosphere on that one?
Axis was a little different on that one, hey? A little more flippy. That was in Revelstoke, up a backcountry zone called McRae. That jump's pretty famous too. I don't recall the name on it, but Dan Breezy's had a bunch of insane clips on it. Craven's hit it a bunch. That one's kind of a classic jump on roll, good big tricks. That day was crazy. That day, we'd had kind of a bad stretch. Like none of us had really gotten any backcountry shots for like a month. And we were doing a movie, the Manboys movie that year that we were going to sell on iTunes. And it was going to be our first like legit movie for sale. So a lot of pressure. And yeah, we had the whole crew in Revelstoke that day. It was myself, Rusty Ockenden, Mark Sollers, Craig McMorris, Jody Wachniak, Matt Belziel. Yeah, 6 riders and 2 filmers. And anyways, collectively as a crew, we got 14 like A shots that made it in the movie that day. One day.
Jeez.
Yeah. That's what we call a beatdown.
That was a beat down on McRae.
Beat
Cheese wedge beatdown. Amazing. Now let's talk about some other stuff with backcountry because it's not just like cheese wedges. You have cheese wedges, you have step downs, you have pat downs, you have natural features, and you have lines. And for you, a lot of guys are specialized. There's cheese wedge guys, there's big line guys, but you like to ride all of it. Why do you like to be an ATV?
I like to ride all of it just because I think it's really fun. Just to actually the act of doing it. Like I will never get tired of hitting jumps. Even as I get older, like I really like doing like a big cab 9 on a jump, like and especially a new gap jump that we built and made work. Like I just find it exciting and a lot of fun. But I also think when you're watching a video part, like I think it's important to have, if it's a strictly backcountry part, you want to have snowboarding in it too. Like you want to have it all. You kind of need that glue to hold the meat and potatoes together. And I definitely used to like only jump and hit step downs, but last kind of, 6-7 years of my snowboard career, I've like started to play with natural terrain a little more. And I really don't think I'll ever be that guy that is like riding down like a psycho spine with like exposure everywhere and like, a lot of critical decisions to memorize and make mistakes on. I kind of like big lines where you can incorporate some portion of freestyle snowboarding into it, like little safer line, mini golf. Maybe there's 2 or 3 critical decisions, but then at the end of it, you're in the clear and you can do like a natty front 5 off something,
I like watching that stuff too.
Yeah, totally. Makes you want to go snowboard more.
100%.
With that said, that shit that Travis did in Dark Matter was crazy.
If you could die at any moment, if you go right or left.
Oh yeah, like 46 decisions to remember on like one line.
Yeah,
46 dukes.
40. Speaking of Travis, I have another Patreon question for you. Oh, this is from Christopher Pittman. What would it take to get a Rodney versus Daywan style video series going with T. Ricky and the Canadian T. Ricky?
That's a great question. We might have to talk to Travis about that one. I think he's a little busy these days. He just had a kid and he's been working on this like little contest series, kind of this like little backyard, backcountry series. You may have heard about it. It's called Natural Selection.
Takes all season. Huh?
Yeah, it takes a bit of time, but yeah, we should set that up. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
How is it having Travis as a goddamn mentor, dude? That just seems fucking wild. He took you under his wing.
Yeah, he really did. I honestly can't. I know he's been given a lot of praise on this podcast, but I can't say enough good things about that dude. I think maybe some people, because he's so famous, maybe have a skewed vision of him. And you know how it is. It's lonely up here at the top. When you succeed, there are going to be a group of people that kind of want to beat you down and talk shit about what you're doing. But he is like so brilliant, so talented, and so like caring to like help and like pay it forward. And I've been a fan of his for a while, and finally met him, I think, in 2010, like on a random team trip in New Zealand. And yeah, he just kind of started like helping me. And the first thing was like inviting me on that AK trip. We were going to try and execute what he had done with Elias and Dark Matter, but we just kind of got screwed on conditions. And so we made that truffle pigs at it, and we just hit cheese wedges in AK, but it was super fun. And then through that, he like, you know, pushed, like him and Pete Sari are the reason I have a pro model with LibTech. Like he just like pushed for it. And I've been riding his board for years, and he just called me one day and was like, he's like, guaranteed you're the reason for a large portion of my sales, definitely in Canada. And he's like, you need your own board. And yeah, can't say enough good things about that guy.
Yeah, let's give him the super air horn. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Yeah, Trev.
Now, I want to talk, you mentioned briefly filming for Truffle Pigs, your guys' project. In that video, there's one session in particular at the end where you go first and cab 9 a hog town. And you kind of like wheelie out a little bit on the first one, and he's like, go again.
Yeah.
I just want to know what that session was like. It looked fucking wild.
Yeah. I mean, that whole trip was wild, dude. Like we're in the Tordrillos, Alaska. Huge shout out to TML Lodge, because if you have the money, that place is probably one of the sickest places to go snowboarding in the world. It's so sick. But yeah, we're out there and the conditions are just junk. Like it was like 200 kilometer an hour winds, 120 miles for the American, something like that.
I could never get the
ballpark.
conversion right on that.
Just like howling beyond belief. It literally blew all the snow like out of the stratosphere. Travis knows that area like the back of his hand, and we spent like 5 hours of heli time flying around trying to find rideable snow, and we just could not do it. Like borderline dangerous, just trying to get it down anything. So the only thing we could do, we were still out there, is like go to these like glacial protected areas where the snow was like okay, like styrofoamy. So every jump we were hitting on that trip was pretty scary. Like normally probably snow you'd not want to build a big jump into. And we found that glacier gap, fired that thing up, kept it nice and clean looking in true Travis style. He doesn't like footprints everywhere. He wants those blocks he wants that thing looking neat. He's an aesthetics guy. And we Roshammed. I lost the Rosham and went cab 9 first try, almost got it, like landed in the sweet spot, but kind of wasn't ready for the impact in the bad snow, wheelied out a bit. Went down to the heli, got bumped back up, was ready for Travis to go. And he's like, dude, you're so close. It's in your head. Like, just go and get it, which I thought was such a boss move. Like, he's there. He wants tricks too. And so I went immediately after and then stomped it perfectly. And yeah, then we got the session going. But that was a crazy jump.
Yeah.
We took a beat down on it after, like both of us, after we got like our main tricks. Like I like looped out on a front 7 tail and like popped a rib out. Like that jump was crazy.
Bit of a jacket flapper, you might say.
I think it was a jacket flapper.
So he doesn't like footprints all around, so you got to limit your walking?
Yeah.
He'll like tell you?
Oh yeah. Building jumps at Travis.
Don't walk over there.
Which it's funny because I'm kind of down. Like I'm the guy on the crew, especially more recent years, that's like really trying to think about what those shots are going to look like, especially if we have a drone out or if a photographer's got a cool angle. I'm like, let's keep the sled tracks to a minimum. Let's keep this clean. Rusty sometimes is just like, like buzzing all over the place.
All sorts of people are always like
totally
that. Like Chris over here is probably roofing.
I've high marked a landing that people have hit later that day. But yeah, keep going.
Nice. Sometimes you got it.
Some people can't help themselves.
You start to lose bodily control when you get on the sled. It's so damn fun.
You're like, my thumb starts twitching. Yeah. Like if I'm out there and I'm not snowboarding that day, and sometimes I just want to wreck all the snowboard shit. I'm just like, so yeah. Anyways, building jumps at Travis, he's like all about keeping that shit clean because he comes from, his background are these like super high budget, like beautiful productions. And so that shit's important. Like you have like 4 cameras on a jump and like a drone or a helicopter or whatever. Like you can't have shit all over the place. So when you build a jump with him, he's like all about like cutting into the in-run to get your blocks instead of making like giant block pits.
Oh, on either side.
Totally. So especially if it's like a bit of a downhill build, like instead of just making a giant block pit and getting a big ugly wedge, he taught me how to like block into the in-run. And then you keep that shit clean, then you smooth it out after, and the jump goes up from there, brings the in-run lower, so it gets more hittable. But yeah, watch those footprints, or he's going to Like,
He'll say something.
Also,
yeah.
there's listeners that are like, "What the hell's a block?"
oh yeah, a block. In the powders, when you're in the backcountry and the snow consolidates, it kind of builds these layers underneath it, and so you have the fresh powder on top. And when you're building jumps, you basically just dig down, a couple inches, sometimes a couple feet, until you hit that hard snow layer, and then you can literally just get out a snow saw and cut like igloo blocks out of it, and that's how we build our backcountry jumps, snow blocks.
That's crazy that he doesn't build from the side too. That's a good thought.
That's actually, but moving the snow is a pain in the ass. Because when you got the hole there, you just chuck it right there. You got to carry the blocks out. I don't know if I back that, honestly.
Well, I'm sure it's situational. Like we did build another jump on that trip where like we had to make a big pit by the side, but I think it's more like if there's an option to put in a bit more effort and keep this clean, like he's going to do it.
And if there's a drone or a heli, like you got to make sure it's clean.
Yeah. Totally.
I love watching the evolution of snowboard jumps over the years. When you watch old videos, like old Mac Dog, it's like
just a pile of
snow, and it's like just a shitty mound. It looks like it doesn't have the right kick. Yeah. And as over the years, these cheese wedges have been
just perfect.
Yes, just perfectly sculpted igloos.
It's a bit of a skill. Like it's definitely a skill in itself. Like building the jump properly, making sure it's structurally safe. Packing snow in all the cracks. Even when I started, you just kind of like pile snow until you can hit it. Like just keep on throwing snow there, keep on walking on it, and like, oh, it's a thing now.
Yeah.
Now it's like you build it
Who's the worst
properly.
shoveler on the Manboys crew?
Jody. This is just fun now, so I'm just gonna keep this going. It might not be Jody. It's probably usually whoever's filming us. Like Ben Webb for a few years, Nate Laverty before that. Rusty's our filmer now actually because he's not a paid professional anymore and. He's kind of dealing with a bit of a back issue right now, so that's his no shoveling excuse.
Oh,
he's heard that one. The back issue.
That's a classic one. Yeah. Oh, my back.
Yeah, we kind of wondered because this back issue started for him like early summer, but we kind of wondered if it was like he's playing the long game.
Yeah,
like
that's
a nice
smart.
long plan. Yeah.
Smart guy.
If I'm a filmer, come like maybe around Thanksgiving time, like I'm gonna start suddenly having back issues.
Pulled my muscle. He's starting Thanksgiving.
Totally.
And when it's kicker time, that's still
the back's definitely still a problem.
I was even kind of thinking, now that we've been like putting an emphasis on like, apprenticing younger snowboarders, like we don't really need to dig. Like I can kind of just be there telling him what to do if you think about it. Like I'm hooking Miskimin up.
Yeah.
So,
he's got a shovel for 2 now.
Have you guys thought about using smelling salts to enhance the work while shoveling?
No, we haven't actually.
Have you ever hit one?
No, never.
Oh yeah. So all you're going to want to do is hit one of these run through a wall smelling salts. You're going to give it a squeeze.
Okay.
Like this. It'll turn red, and once it turns red, give it a
Like I just smell the fumes.
Just smell the fumes, yeah.
Okay.
Woo!
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
Whoa!
I got that one good.
Let me get another one. You're right now. You're ready.
Cap
to build
9.
a
I'm
wedge.
going cap 12, baby. Let's do it. Holy yeah.
Whew. All right. I don't know. Just something you want to consider bringing some sniffers up
Still
into
lingering around my mic.
Yeah.
cheese wedge. Yeah.
You know what? You just keep those in your pocket, and just right before you drop, you hit one of those, and you're like, let's go.
You are
do
ready.
this.
Yeah. No, I think you're like I'm going cab 5. You get to the lip. You're going cab 14.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
One of those with the cold mountain air, that would just go.
He's got some bite. I know we were talking about Craig McMorris earlier when we were off air and how he's a hockey boy, but I actually mentioned smelling salts to him. I'm like, why don't you bring them like to the streets? And he's like, I'd go too crazy. He's like, I don't think I think it's too much.
Too much.
I was like, oh, I mean, which is fair because the shit he hits in the streets, like he's hitting some buck features.
Now, earlier you breezed over on the fact that Lib gave you a pro model. And you have a pretty cool, notable art graphic. I believe we have a earlier Patreon question about that, Buds.
So we have a Patreon question from Powder Pirate. How was the process of designing your own pro model? What did you change about the T-Rice board to make it your own? And tell us about the graphics.
Well, thank you for the question. Powder Pilot, was that his name?
Powder Pirate.
Powder Pirate. Dope name.
He's gonna steal all your. Give me your powder.
He's gonna be commandeering the booth real quick.
I'm here to commandeer your powder. I think he has an eye patch.
100%. With a name like that, he's got it. The process of designing a pro model snowboard, especially with a company like LibTech, is really rad. It starts off by thinking about the art. You start chatting with an artist that you want to work with, talk about some concepts. if you don't have an idea, that's fine too. You can kind of just like tell them some stuff you like and get a conversation, kind of a think bubble going, and then you go from there. And then then it's about construction, and you talk to the designers at LibTech. Like, I got to give a shout out to Steve Cobb. He's huge air horn for him. He's kind of like the the man behind the boards that nobody's heard of. He's responsible for a lot of their technology. I'm gonna say he invented magnetraction, which is pretty sick. And
that's heavy, right?
Totally. My first 2 boards with Mervyn were just T-Rice Pros. They were living in Travis's line, but offered in a different size and with my graphic on them. So they were literally the Travis board, different graphic, different size. We wanted to kind of move away from that and offer something different. So it wasn't just the T-Rice Pro. And so we just wanted to kind of shave it to the type of riding I do, which is backcountry freestyle, I guess is the best way you could classify it. So keep it like a stiff freestyle style board, but beef up the nose a little bit so it's got more float, taper in the tail because you are going, you're right for me, goofy most of the time. And just make it like a better pow stick that can still ride switch well. So for the newest one, that's kind of what we did. We put a lot of emphasis on like creating more float up here, keeping it nice and stiff. So when you land something big, the nose doesn't bend. You're not going to like go over the bars because that nose is flexing too much. And then we pulled material out of the tail just so it's got a bit more wiggle in the trees.
Sounds phenomenal. And what's up with the Octopus graphic?
Yeah, so the Octopus graphic has kind of been like a reoccurring theme in like a lot of LibTech boards. But for me, I've just always, like, I love the ocean, love ocean creatures, animals in general. And I've always just thought octopuses were fascinating. Like, they're like a really bizarre and strange creature. And they're like super like curious, and like it seems like they're starting to realize that they have like senses of humor, and they're like little communities, and like when they have them in aquariums and stuff. And for the first one I did with the octopus, I had this idea where I wanted to have like an bald eagle swooping in to like attack the octopus, kind of make it look like a Pacific Northwest vibe where myself and Mervyn Manufacturing is from. And that just kind of carried on into this one. And this one was more of like a sci-fi, like Interstellar inspired graphic. Like, you remember that scene from Interstellar where they land on that water planet and the giant tidal wave comes? Mm-hmm. That's kind of where the inspo came for this one. That idea popped in my head. So it's like intergalactical traveler. He could be from another dimension. He could be someone from the future. That's open to interpretation. He's crash landed on a weird ocean planet that also has big, crazy mountains in the background. And there's a giant octopus taking down his ship.
So you might want to eat some mushrooms and stare at that snowboard.
Deep.
Yeah, totally.
I like it.
Are you able to pick your own artists, or do they just throw an artist at you that works for them?
LibTech is great about it. I get to pick my own artist.
That's cool.
Yeah, obviously you can't go full rogue. You got to work within the parameters of like what's going to fit in the line.
Yeah, what they need.
I would say, from what I've talked to other athletes about, I would say LibTech gives me quite a bit of freedom, which is nice.
And can we get back to octopuses having a sense of humor? I wonder what their jokes are like in the aquarium.
Do you have any octopus like podcasts? Or
they reported to like steal and like hide things.
Oh, okay.
And then like pull it out later, and be like, check it out, I got it here. And like there was like some article I read, and there was like a bit of footage of it, but like some octopus or these fish kept on going missing at this aquarium in like a separate tank. And they were like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Where are these fish going? And then they realized the octopus was getting out of its tank. Like, it was like climbing out, and it would go into the other tank and like eat a fish and then go back in. So they put like a latch on the octopus's cage or whatever. And it opened that latch, figured out how to get out, and then climbed up to the camera and was like grabbing the camera with its tentacles. So it like somehow
knew that they were recording them?
Somehow was able to comprehend in its weird little octopus brain, 8 brains, that like that thing was like an eye, and the reason it got busted was because there was a camera there.
They have 8 brains?
Yeah, they have like their main brain, and then they have like a separate brain in each one of their tentacles.
Wow. I heard there's a Netflix documentary about some guy that like befriended an octopus, and he kept finding the same one. And
yeah, the octopus teacher.
Yeah.
That guy's a little crazy.
Yeah, they became homies or something.
I really liked that documentary. It was cool. And it's actually kind of funny. That documentary came out around the time that my first pro model with the octopus was coming out. And I was like, this is perfect. Octopus stocks are going up. Like, this is getting hot. But yeah, that doc was sick. But I think he was like this guy that got really into free diving, like in a really cold climate. He was doing it with no wetsuit, and he just like kept on seeing this octopus in the same area. And yeah, it got really curious, and he was just starting to like see that it had this like really complex personality for an animal that most people would disregard as calamari, you know?
Yeah.
And like,
I mean, they're wild.
They're wild, and they're very different than squids. Like squids are a lot more instinctual. Octopuses seem to exhibit a lot more like curious and intellectual behavior.
Yeah, they're supposedly very intellectual.
Wow. Amazing. Now, talking about LibTech, this is an interesting subject. So I was talking to Scott Stevens the other day, and he rides a flat camber board, and he's like, geez, man, I've just been going through a lot of camber shaming. You know, a lot of people are purists about riding full camber, and LibTech is known for riding reverse camber, and it gets kind of reverse camber can be a punching bag for some. Do you feel like you've been a victim of camber shaming?
Dude, snowboarders are the worst for accepting change. Snowboarders hate change. Snowboarders are so damn stubborn. Like, nah, they're the best. No, it's not. Like, dude, the old ways were the best. Like, it was the best when it was like this. Yeah, camber's great. You do get a little bit more pop on hardback with camber. Maybe it'll carve better. But personally, for me, what I like to do, that C2X camber that LibTech makes works the best. It's got great float and powder. You still get like good snap when you need it. And yeah, you can like sink in a weird powder landing and the nose just kind of pops up. But yeah, for whatever reason right now, it seems like reverse camber is
it fully reverse camber, or is it like flat in the middle and then reverse on the nose and tail?
There's no flat in the C2X one.
It's fully like, reverse camber.
Yeah, so between the bindings, it's like reverse camber. And then at the bindings, it goes back to camber. So when you step on it, you get that camber feel in hardpack. But then when it's like de-weighted, or if it's like in the POW, the board will like spring up a little bit and you get a bit of lift. But yeah,
there's a lot of camber shaming going on.
Totally. And like obviously the type of snowboarding that I do is like it's this like one niche thing, just like guys who are exclusively park, that's one niche thing. Guys and girls that are exclusively rails, that's its own thing. So I don't know. I can't speak in absolutes about that.
When you're in the powder, it's like everything kind of works. You know?
Also, if it works,
you could ride a door in powder.
Yeah, that's what I was always. If you're a good rider, you could ride that door down a slope. Put some.
It seems to work for T. Ricky, but
yeah,
that's a good case in point. Well, Buds, we've been cruising along. You know what it's time for?
Name that video part.
Oh. Damn, you guys are so fun to talk to. I almost forgot about this part. Here we go.
Name That Video part is presented by the Icon Pass, isn't it, Buds?
It is. Did you know, Chris, that the Icon Pass has 50 destinations worldwide?
50. That's a lot of places to go ragdoll through powder or hit great park jumps or even turn on some cord, Buds. I heard that the Icon Pass welcomes 3 legendary new destinations to its family of mountains. You can explore the storied slopes of Chamonix in France, the sun-drenched scenes of Sun Valley, Idaho, and the powder pillow deep history of Snow Basin here in Utah. They got Snow
right
Basin
in our backyard.
It is. Yep.
Let's hit that up.
So if you're thinking about boarding, be sure to get yourself an Icon Pass this year. That being said, let's get into Name That Video part.
This is where Manboys become men or boys. I don't know.
I mean, if you can remember, like, years worth of snowboard videos, probably boys. Because like, is that valuable, brain bandwidth? Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
See what he's got.
Yeah, let's see how you do. So what's your confidence level 0 through 10?
Oh man, I don't know. It really depends. Like if I owned that movie, like I will know every single song and part in it, but I'm going to go with a 6.
Okay. Yeah. This is big for you. If you don't get this could be really, really bad. I just want you to know that. I just want to know.
Yeah, your mountain credit will go down.
Yeah, this is huge. So here we go.
Travis Rice, Neverland.
Woo!
That was quick
He's
with it.
riding his stallion.
I think he had that like crazy American flag outfit.
Oh, that's right.
Too.
Yeah.
I was like, buddy, but yeah, that part is so just a testament to how like easy some certain things are for him. Like that year was just like an in-between year of like Brain Farm movies, and he just went out for like 8 days in Jackson, I heard, and filmed that whole part.
Jeez.
It was just like boom, 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 boom. Okay.
Must be nice.
Yeah, he was on
to be Rice.
He was on some shit. It must be nice to Rice. Now, for part 2 of Name That Video part, you guys have a chance to win a little bomb hole prize pack. If you know what song this is, head on over to Instagram and comment on the thumbnail photo of Chris Rasman, and that's where we pick our winner. And here we go. I think the Canadians from your generation or from your area might appreciate this one as a little morsel of information. Here we go. Okay. Thank you guys for playing.
I don't know if I got that one.
It might be a little before your time.
Sounds familiar.
Name that video part. Now, since we're talking video parts, and the video part is the holy grail of snowboarding, at least the people of our generation, why we do name that video part, why we like to try to preserve the culture. But there's also this little thing that's happening called Instagram. And what is your take on Instagram versus video part and both of their importance?
I feel like that question is like such a hot topic these days among snowboarders from our generation, because we're living in the age of social media, and it's just like, you know, if you can't grow with it, you're gonna, like, dinosaurs will die, right? So it is important to like acknowledge the way of the new world and how marketing works. But I come from an era where it was all about snowboard movies and video parts, and you waited all season and then all summer. And then the fall, you got to go and like buy this movie that these group of people that you looked up to spent all this time and money working on for your viewing pleasure. And you would just watch that stuff on repeat. And they're like art projects in a way, you know, like a nice edited video part with like rad snowboarding, cool music, like, yeah, it's special. And so even though the snowboard world is changing, part of me is like, whatever, I'm going to keep on doing things the way I like to do it. And that's kind of what we're doing with Manboys. Like we do try and evolve and, you know, stay with the times, but we also just kind of want to stay true to our roots because we like that art project foundation of what like a snowboard video part is. And they can be timeless, and you can kind of like put your flag in the snowboard timeline if you have like a video part that people remember, or whether like the song really hit for some people or like the footage did. And Instagram clips and YouTube edits get lost. Like people watch them once, they might not even make it through the whole thing. They keep on scrolling. They might even just watch it on their phone, and that's gone forever. Like you're not going to, unless it was like really impactful, people aren't going to be like going and looking that up later. But yeah, I don't know. It is such a loaded conversation. I understand Instagram works really well for marketing. It's a good way to get stuff out there. And as athletes, it really like helps us now get our stuff out there and let our fans and our viewers kind of get a little like glimpse into our lives, who we are, what our day-to-days look like. Yeah, it's good and bad.
It's such an interesting one. Thinking about, as you're talking, I was also just thinking about too, is like how we grew up. It's like you get the VHS, the DVD, you put it in, and it was like everything was watched on a TV. So you're watching all your shit on a TV, and you're like, you know, you're crowded around. Oh, we're gonna go snowboarding tomorrow. Like I would get home, you know, you have your fucking sleeve of DVDs, you put it in there,
yeah.
And there's so much stuff consumed on a phone, which is great for single tricks and things on Gram, and you're scrolling through. But I still do think when I go on trips with the boys, we're throwing YouTube on, and we're just going to YouTube and on the TV,
yeah,
and we're watching parts. So it's like I think that parts still live on YouTube and can still do the thing, but it's a damn shame when people are out there with a red camera. Mm-hmm. You have T. Ricky building a perfectly manicured fucking wedge, and it's filmed on like 7K or whatever the hell the camera is.
You're watching it on a 4-inch screen.
And you're watching it on a fucking screen.
I know.
It's doing a goddamn injustice.
It's backwards.
You are doing a huge disservice to the snowboard industry and the people that put in a lot of work to this by strictly watching it on your phone. Now, with that said, do what you want to do. Like if you don't have the time, or you just really don't care, like that's fine too. But if you like snowboarding and you like consuming snowboard content, just know how much goes into this. Like we're not just like, you know, rock stars. Like the money isn't there like it used to be. A lot of work has to go into it because the level is growing, and there's a lot of passion that goes into it. And we know we're lucky, but watch it on a screen. You'll enjoy it more. You'll probably want to rewatch it, and yeah, better viewing experience.
Another point too is like you mentioned working hard for it just now, and another thing that's cool is like Mikey actually kind of enlightened me on this, Rents, about like, you know, you've pretty much worked a job through your a lot of your career. Where there's times where I figured you were on the pro level where you can take the summers off, like, you know, the rest of the entitled, spoiled fucking professional snowboarder fucking community. They're just such entitled pieces of shit, myself included. And basically, you're able to like you had to work, right?
Yeah, totally. I think kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier about me being like a late bloomer in the sense of, you know, a marketed snowboarder. Like I just kind of had like a slow uphill climb from industry speaking. I think because of that and because of my timing becoming a pro snowboarder, I kind of missed the boat on that like big money for backcountry snowboarders. And I also was like blowing up and getting good when like backcountry movies were dying, like people were caring less, and it's kind of coming full circle right now. I feel like I even feel like with movies and premieres, there's like a yearning for a snowboard community again. I feel like that is coming back. But because of that, because of the timing, because of the way things went, like I never really made much money. Like huge thank you to like all my brands, current and past, that have like supported me along the way. But like I've always had to work a summer job, and I've never really been bummed about it either. It's just kind of like part of the process, because when I'm out there all winter doing that in the mountains, I know regardless of the money I'm making, I'm a 1%er, even just living where I live. Like that is like, you know, I'm so privileged and fortunate to be able to just do that it never really bothered me that much. I would say the only times I would get bummed was when I would like see like the training that other athletes got to do in the off season. Like that was the only time where I'd kind of get jealous. I was like, man, like I'm like working labor and other people get to like take care of their body and go on surf trips and do this all summer. That was where I would get a little bit envious. But yeah, I don't know. It's just part of it for me. And I think people out there, it's important to know that like, especially like if you want to like be a pro snowboarder, like don't do it because you have your eyes on like a rock star prize, because that is like few and far between. There's a very small amount of riders that have that. Do it because you love it. You enjoy the lifestyle. Like you mentioned, Chris, I think a lot of people probably, because I've been around for so long, a lot of people probably would look at me and think that I'm, you know, making well over 6 figures, but like never has that been a thing. And that's okay. I just love this process. Like, I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't like go into the backcountry every day on a snowmobile and try and get clips.
Well, it's not going to last forever either. So
yeah,
the sooner you start working, the better, right?
Well, there's also what Bud's is saying too, is when you work your whole career, and all right, let's just take and vice versa. If you start getting paid at a young age and you never fucking work, when reality hits, it hits a lot fucking harder. It hits a lot harder. Whereas when you've already worked and then you get to not work for a little bit, then you're like, oh, just fucking going back to what I was just doing.
Right? That's a really good point too, because like I will say, like I'm not, just because of the way the industry is, and like I'm not making crazy money right now, but I have very awesome and supportive sponsors right now that have like rewarded the work I've done and the success in the last few years, and like I'm doing good now. I'm comfortable. And so last summer was actually the first summer that I took off not working. I wanted to see what it felt like. I was like, I want to take a summer off as like a pro athlete and be like, I'm just going to do exactly what I want this year. I bought a jet ski. I did a bunch of cool camping missions with Solars, and I just like enjoyed it. And it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. But one thing I will say is all the moments in between those cool trips and those sunny days and those fun camping parties, I was waking up a lot feeling like a bit of a lack of purpose. I was like, I just can wake up and go do whatever I want today. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, I don't have any responsibility. It was kind of bizarre. And I think because of that, I don't think I'm going to do that again next summer. Like, I think I'm going to like do something, work towards something that I can do after snowboarding, like just some sort of work, some sort of skill building, you know.
Got yourself a jet ski. You're like the Kenny Powers of Canada up there, huh?
Dude, damn straight.
The Dew?
Oh, yeah. The Dew is... Oh my God, I love that thing. It's the snowmobile of the water, except the act of driving it isn't quite as fun. Like, it's, the water's either smooth or the water's bumpy, but it's more like the places you can get. Like, dude, we had so much fun on those things this summer.
Dude, that's tight.
All right, we got to talk about your Avalanche that you got into last year. I believe it was in Canada somewhere. Heliboarding?
No, it was actually snowmobile access, half hiking, half snowmobile access in the Pemberton Ice Caps.
Okay, well, I have the clip right here. Why don't you just talk us through what happened here?
Okay, so I entered by this big cornice, kind of slid down this steep section, aired off like a 15-foot cliff there, landed, started ripping down the chute, toe side turn, some soft slab started to break. I didn't see the first one. Then on that one, I saw it. Kind of took a quick check, looked, saw it was only about 6 inches of soft slab, and had to make a quick decision, either stop at my safe spot there or keep boarding. I chose to keep boarding. I was like, maybe this will be a clip. I think I'm fine. It's a small amount of snow moving. I can manage it. Keep on working my way down the ridge. Dump speed on the hit. I planned to go huge off. Did a little 10-foot front 3. Landed. That face below me rips. I realized I'm getting pulled towards a cliff, so I slam on the brakes in a panic, and that brake slam made the whole convex roll go. And right now you see I'm getting pulled off a cliff by all that moving snow. I pulled my airbag, bounced off a bunch of rocks, and then and it all settled, and I was like fully buried, except for my airbag in my head. That thing like fully like worked and saved my life there, kept me out of the snow. It was a gnarly one.
How was actually getting to the airbag? Like I always you always wonder about getting to the pole. Was it pretty just instinctual boom?
Yeah, it was. And they definitely, like, when those things first came out, like, guides and the companies that made them would basically say, like, the second you're in an avalanche, pull it. But as they started to be around for longer and they were being used in the field, what they've realized is you actually want to do everything you can to get out of that avalanche and get up before you pull the airbag. Because once you pull that thing, you're a very large object and you're just going to go with wherever the snow is going to push you. You can't really control what's going on. So if there's a way out, you scramble out first. Like if you can bounce to your feet and like traverse to safety or like try and outrun it if you know there's nothing sketchy below you. In that instance, when I slammed on the brakes, that whole face ripped. I instantly had my feet swept out from underneath me and I was on my back. And I knew I was going with the natural flow of it, which was over rocks. And
over that cliff.
Over that cliff. And no terrain trap, but it was like a nice smooth run out. But I just knew that there was going to be a lot of snow from that face moving. So I pulled it right away because I had no control going over the rocks, and it's easy to get to. It's like it's right there on your strap. You can get to it quick. And in that moment, when you hear like the pop and you know the canister's working and you know that thing's filling, it's like relieving, but so intense. It's just like, and it's fucking hectic and crazy, and you can't see anything. And yeah, I was like bouncing off of rocks on that one.
Did it protect you a little bit from bouncing on rocks too?
I think so. I think I like inspected it after and it didn't have any holes, but I think I felt like kind of some around my back there that it probably, because it does like protect your shoulders and your neck from rocks. I always wear a helmet when I ride lines. It's a whole separate conversation, but anytime there's like exposure around or I'm on big terrain like that, I wear a helmet. I don't wear one hitting jumps because I feel like that can actually give you more whiplash, but anyways, whole separate thing. But yeah.
So looking at that line in retrospect, what do you think you could have done to mitigate the outcome and decisions you could have made better?
First off, I'll say when analyzing these scenarios, it's always important to like be kind to yourself and acknowledge, especially in this age we're in where there's a lot of criticism in like avalanche scenarios and glorifying avalanches in movies. It's important to like acknowledge what you did right. What we did right as a crew was talk about the avalanche conditions that day, talk about the snowpack. It was moderate all around, and the small worrisome layer was very small. So it was essentially like the best of days to ride big terrain. Another plus, I chose to wear a helmet. Another plus, chose to wear an airbag. Another plus, we had a plan for something in the event of a burial. Like we had, the other athletes in place that could get there quick. So those are all positives. Negatives was mainly that I should have made different decisions mid-slope. When I made that second turn where I saw that there was a slide happening and all of that soft slab had like bonded together and was just like kind of ripping away. It was like about 6-inch soft slab, but on a big, that sounds like not much, but on a big slope like that snow builds up quickly. It's a lot of moving snow, moving fast. I had a safe spot. I had a plan where I could have stopped on a ridge. I could have just waited out the slide to keep going. Could have radioed, canceled the shot. Guys, it's done. Abort. I'm riding out of the Avi debris now, safe and fine. But in that moment, my ego kicked in, and I had just come off Natural Selection Alaska. I was a little disappointed with my performance out there. I thought I could have turned it up a notch. I wish I would have done better. I had been quarantining in a hotel room for 72 hours and then at my house for another 12 days because those are the Canadian rules at the time. So I was just in kind of a crazy mental space and feeling like I needed to prove something. It was like first day back out filming and I'm like, I can ride lines. Like I'm going to have some badass lines in my part. So yeah, in that moment, I made the decision to keep going and to make it a clip. I'm like, split second decision. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep this shot going. There's going to be a lot of moving snow. It's manageable. It's all fanning that way. I'm on the ridge. This is going to be okay. Like I can manage this safely. And so I kept on going down, wanted to blast off that bump at the bottom, like 60 feet. Like I wanted to take it so big on a front three, but because of the slide, I just kind of like tiptoed in very carefully, nervously, and just did a small front three. But then even when I landed that one on the panel above the rocks, that face went. So obviously bad decision. Should have stopped, should have aborted the shot. But now I'm in the point of no return. I've got to like navigate what's happened there. Next bad decision, which is like, can't really be too hard on myself about this one because these are like split second moments. But in retrospect, after I landed that front three, I could have pointed it straight, gone into the, like where the debris was, and it would have fanned out way nicer there. And I still could have pulled my bag, but I would have been out of rock hazard. But instead, my like quick moment of panic was to slam on the brakes because I was going towards that cliff. That like brake slam made the whole face rip. And that's which in turn pulled me over the rocks.
Wow. Very, very good detailed analyzation of that.
Yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of thought into what you could and didn't do, huh?
Yeah, and you have to. It's important to talk about these things after. It's important to debrief with your crew because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's how you can like mitigate those risks after. And I recently had Pat Moore and Jeff Pensiero's Avalanche course that they do up at Baldface. I did a case study on that Avalanche in front of all the athletes there and talked about it. And a big thing that is kind of new in like Avalanche science and Avalanche courses is to talk about how the human brain works in these scenarios. It's not just about learning your skills. That's all really important. You got to know your gear. You got to practice with it. You got to know the snowpack, learn about it. All that stuff's important, but understanding how our brain works is key. Like humans have ego, humans have nerves. We can be self-conscious. We can be overconfident. Like if you're filming, that's a whole different thing too. You can feel like you have something to prove. Like the crew you're out with, you can put this thing that we call an expert halo on someone. Like if you're with a crew that is like way more experienced than you, you can put your worries aside because you're just trusting that you're in good hands. Like everyone deserves a voice when you're out there. And understanding the human psyche, I think is like a big importance when it comes to avalanche safety and knowing how to talk about all this stuff.
I want to highlight what you just said there with expert halos.
Yeah, I like
and,
that.
And feeling like when you're with people that are more experienced that you don't need to make your own decisions because they know what's going on. I want you to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. Yeah,
I think it's an important one to talk about that I didn't coin that phrase. It was one thing that Buff talked about at the Avi course. For those of you who don't know, Buff is he's basically the avalanche wizard in Canada. Travis has brought him on a bunch of shoots as like the safety avalanche guy there, and Buff does all the avalanche control for all of the highways in British Columbia. He's the man, and he's like up there helping us with air horn for Buff. So essentially, expert halo, which all of us have done in all walks of life, and in snowboarding especially when you get put on a crew that you don't know anyone with. If the production company is throwing you with a group of people that you don't know, the way our brains work, we have a tendency to trust the person who seems like they have more experience. And even if we might have an idea or might have a worry, our natural inclination is to put that aside because of the expert in the group. So we're putting an expert halo on them and not voicing our opinions, not voicing our concerns. A big part of like avalanche, about backcountry success and backcountry safety is everyone in the crew's got to have a voice. Like no one is too much of a rookie to voice a concern because everyone is seeing different things. Everyone's got a different brain. Everyone's got a different pace, and acknowledging that and just knowing that nobody knows everything is really important.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, a lot of our listeners probably getting into the backcountry first time, whatever, What advice do you have for people that they got a split board, they got a snowmobile, and they're like, I'm over these lift lines. I'm just going to go in the backcountry, but they maybe don't have the knowledge.
My advice is do it because it's awesome. It'll make you so happy. They're like snowboarding in the backcountry is really special. And yeah, get into it. Do it. Don't be afraid of it. But learn your avalanche skills. Take the time. Get good gear. Don't buy a sketchy transceiver on Craigslist. Like, buy good avalanche transceiver, probe and shovel. Airbags really help. Literally saved my life last season. I would have been buried. And your crew. Like, I know it can be hard if you're not in the privileged situation that we're in, where we're professional athletes and we can like pick our crew that we go up with. Other people work jobs, they have different days off, but like try and get a crew that you build those skills together with, and you get to know each other. You're comfortable with talking with each other about problems, terrain crossings, and yeah, just move slow. Like don't be all gung ho. Like when we go out there and you watch these shots of us like flying off mountains, riding big lines, like there is a gigantic process that goes into that of years of experience, safety, conversations, patience. Some seasons it's just not, like sometimes it's not even the season to ride big lines. Like I've gone whole seasons where it's like we don't get on big terrain. So just move slow, learn.
That's smart.
Did you have any like PTSD after?
You know, it's crazy. The PTSD hit, I did, but it hit like late. Like I was like kind of fine after, like just full of adrenaline. And then we even like rode some more stuff that day. We debriefed and had like conversations, but I was with, something to note is I was with two athletes that I don't usually ride with, and they are incredible big mountain riders. So I switched from my crew and went with them for that day because they invited me and they took me to this secret spot where there was giant sled access lines. And so they didn't do anything wrong. Those guys are super safe. They had rope, like crevasse rescue gear, all the stuff. We talked about the conditions, but I put an expert halo on them. I didn't talk about my plan detailed with them. I just was like, yeah, it's fine. They know. They got this. So that was a mistake. What was the start of your question, Buds?
Did you get any PTSD after getting back out there and riding big lines? And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So like it just hit kind of late. Like it hit a little while after, and like I remember being at home and just like crying about it, like just getting so emotional and just being like, what the fuck is like wrong with me? Like, why did I do this? Why did I make those decisions? I could be gone right now. All for like a clip and a video part that like most people won't see, most people won't remember. Like it's just not worth it. And every time I talk about it, I get a little emotional. For sure.
You're inches from death.
Totally.
If you think about it, if that bag didn't go, or
yeah, dude, for sure. But I think it's like good to not try and push those feelings away. Like I think it's good to like have a cry about it if you need to, and I think it's okay to get emotional about it, and like a bit of PTSD is okay because I think that's your body's way of like teaching you that like you learned a lesson.
Yeah.
Like I probably won't ride terrain that like large for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Like I've always been into mini golf stuff. Like when I'm riding lines, I'm into like a couple of critical decisions, but then you're out to a relatively safe area quickly where you can even trick after the line. That was kind of my first time getting on something like
what was the vertical
giant.
on that? That was a lot.
Yeah, that was a giant. That was a whole run.
It was like basically. An AK run. It was like 2,000 feet or meters. 2,000. Yeah.
Well, what I was also wondering too, talking about, you said it's
2,000 meters.
Sled access. So you're talking about, the other thing I was thinking about is when it's sled access, if you didn't pull your bag and you get buried, they can't get to you as quickly as a heli in a lot of instances. Did you guys ever put that into a factor at all?
Yeah, that we talked about that, and that was again something we did positive. And so yeah, you need to. That's a huge conversation that needs to be had when you're going out there and riding stuff. Like before you ride something, don't just talk about the snowpack. Don't just talk about is that snow going to slide. Talk about even if it's the safest day with like moderate or low avalanche danger. Talk about worst case scenario. Be like, if you ride this line, you don't have to be like, oh, what happens if you bounce your head off that rock and you fucking. But like, talk about if you're going to ride this line, if it does slide, where's that snow going to push you? How deep do you think you're going to get buried? Is there a terrain trap down there? Like, talk about your rescue plan if something does happen. So if it does, everyone's ready. Everyone's not just sitting around like, oh, like, what do we do? In that instance, it is a sled access line, but it's a giant sled lap around the back of this mountain. And then you park your sled by this ridge and you actually ridge walk for like 40 minutes. So it's a really long lap. And then what we're fanning out onto after that line is actually a big glacier. So we don't get our snowmobiles up there. Our snowmobiles are at the bottom and at the top way up. So our like rescue plan was just make sure that there was either an athlete or media above the next athlete doing his line. So like first athlete dropped, and if something happened, we could all get down to him by taking like just one of the mellow shoots and not riding the lines. And the filmer who's shooting the Barbie angle, which means angle across the way, could ski to him really quick. So yeah, you just want to make sure there's always somebody above you, always somebody that has you in their sights the whole time so they can see.
How quick did they get to you? Like, had you gone under the snow, would they have gotten to you on time if you didn't have the bag to pull?
Because the zone is so big, I think they would have gotten there quick, but I think it would have been about 1.5 to 2 minutes before they would have been like on me with shovels.
Yeah.
And that,
so it could have been close.
It could have been close. That's a good chunk of time under snow. I don't know. We had talked about the terrain and it fanned out nicely. There was no big terrain trap down there. So I don't think I would have been very deep, but I probably could have been a couple feet under, and sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, that's all it can take.
And the benefit of a heli is they nose in, the whole crew jumps out. You got
exactly.
You got a whole crew shoveling.
Yeah, you would have had one guy on
30
you,
seconds.
potentially. Two, the Barbie and the person that could ride down.
I would have had two and then a third there after. So I would have had the two other athletes rode their lines before me. So I would have had them there on me in about 1.5, 2 minutes. And then shortly after that, I would have had the Barbie angle come down to help. But yeah, it's funny.
And they would have had to find you first and then probe and start digging.
Transceivers out. Yeah.
Glad your bag went.
Me too, man. That technology works.
Yeah.
That was my first time having to pull one. Those airbags, like, not to like preach too much here, but like buy one being like, I'm good, I'm safe now. Like, buy one as like a last resort, as like something that if you are in that scenario, like it might save your life. But like, other than that, forget about it. Don't rely on that handle. Like, but they work.
It's nice that you thought to.
Yeah, it's a good safety measure. It's just another thing, like wearing a life jacket on a boat.
Well, let's transition here into the pub beer crapshoot.
Finally.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crapshoot.
Now, Buds, what are you cracking there?
My favorite beverage of the podcast every week here. This is a pub beer, cheap, fun beer right here, brother.
Yep. Now, if you're up in Canada and you're wearing a toque and you're thinking about getting absolutely plastered, drinking about 40 beers, don't be afraid to get yourself a pub beer. You can do that responsibly, get plastered responsibly, or if you're thinking about having 1 or 2 beers.
What do they call it in Canada when you get plastered? Is there a fun name for it up there?
You get tuned, bud.
Oh, yeah, you get tuned up.
Right.
Yeah, you get
tuned up.
Another one I like is buckled. I was freaking buckled, bro.
Yep. Also, gooned is really good.
Yeah, gooned is great.
Yeah.
It's got some probably a hockey term, maybe.
Totally.
Yeah.
My man Bo Bishop's got some great hockey terms.
That movie Goon was awesome. Yeah, pub beer's the way to go, though, if you're going to get tuned, buckled, or gooned.
Should be their new slogan, actually, on the can.
Right on the can.
So,
only in Canada.
All right, Rasman. So just roll that dice, and we'll tell you what you got to do.
Okay. What do we got? We got 2 snake eyes.
Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. Tell us about a time you went number 2 in your pants.
I don't know if everybody's got a good shit their pants story.
Shit their pants story. If they don't, you can't trust them.
To be honest, this is like not a full-on shit my pants story, but it's like a little bit of a squirter to like run through the woods by a highway.
Yes.
So it's like it's kind of a shart your pants story.
Yeah.
I had just come off a flight, I don't know where from, into YVR, Vancouver. Picked up my truck at the Park and Fly and just started pinning it to Whistler. Stomach was kind of feeling not great from some airport food, but not like panic moment, like I need to find a bathroom, just kind of more like, oh, I'm going to feel like shit until tomorrow. As I get on the upper levels, it's like all of a sudden down to seconds, like something just hits and I'm like, oh my God, like, we've all been there.
Yeah.
I could not pull over fast enough. So I just pull over on the side of the highway and just start sprinting up this grassy hill into the woods so I could get to some cover, get in past like 5 or 6 trees, just full pants down.
Explosive diarrhea?
Explosive diarrhea. Wipe with a sock. Left the sock there. Like,
classic.
Sorry. Yeah, that was probably the worst one upon recent memory.
That's respectable.
That's respectable.
Yeah. You can be like what a vulnerable way humans are created. Like, somebody could have rolled up and killed me. I wouldn't have been able to defend myself.
Yes.
Like, I was so vulnerable that it's like it.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean,
you know what's actually, that might be a good technique. If you're in a bar fight and you think you're going to get the shit kicked out of you, just pull your pants down and like have diarrhea.
Yeah, and just start pooping.
Just fear diarrhea right on the spot.
Then they're like, whoa, okay, I don't know what to do with this guy.
My brother was on one of these little mini planes, and somebody had explosive diarrhea. All of a sudden, there's no bathroom.
Oh no!
And the guy's like freaking out, and they had everyone get to the front of the little plane, and this poor dude had the shit in a bag, one of the puke bags, and he just like look away, and just throw it in the plane, and it just stunk up the plane.
Oh no, dude! That reminds me, I actually do have. So that one I escaped with like pretty much no poop in the pants, but just crazy story. I do have another one.
Yeah. Let's keep it going.
It's surfacing.
Yeah, this is the only one that was actually a bit of poop in the pants. It was after Oshega Music Festival in Montreal. Thank you, Mark Solid and Monster Energy, for hooking those VIP tickets up. That was incredible. On the plane ride home after a weekend of boozing and eating crappy food, and I got upgraded to first class by accident, which was amazing.
By accident?
They just, I don't know how that worked. I just they just
it was your day.
upgraded me. Yeah, it was my day, which was so great. But yeah, full on like little accident in the pants that I wasn't ready for.
Right in first class.
Right in first class. And had to and I was waiting for the bathroom, couldn't hold it. Little came out, and then I'm just sitting there in worst first class experience ever, because I'm just like
just bumming everybody out.
Out. Probably nobody even smells it. It wasn't that much, but
they probably smelled it.
Might have
smelled you know how it is on planes.
Yeah. And I probably just look like a mess. Yeah. Like I'm just been partying all weekend. I'm
sweating,
just sweating, just like.
Yeah. That the poop just circles around the air vents. I mean, it's hitting every passenger.
Circulated air.
Well, basically, Bud's actually one time was taking a shit in a tunnel and almost got hit by a train too.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a vulnerable situation.
True story.
Yeah. See that tunnel right there.
That tunnel.
Yeah, that tunnel. Yeah.
What a shitty way to die.
Yeah. Fond memories of that tunnel just splattering the walls in there.
Now
running from the train.
Now let's we got to get into a big topic that we haven't talked about, which is called natural selection. Little contest that.
That little backyard jam.
Little backyard jam you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And the first year, let's talk year one, because first things first, right out of the gate, you picked Travis Rice as your opponent.
Yeah.
How was that? How'd you make that decision?
Yeah. Well, the way that picking thing works is they basically do like a digital Rolodex, so all the names kind of go into like a digital hat, and then they pop up. And the first name that pops up, you essentially get a blank canvas. You just get to pick what heat you're going in. Don't pick going against anybody. And then they keep on going, and as it flows and the heats fill up, eventually a rider will have to pick a head-to-head match. I got picked second last, so all of the slots are full. Everyone's avoiding Travis. Like, Travis is just right there in like heat 6, and everyone's like, picking other heats, just avoiding him. And it's just me and Blake Paul left. And my name gets drawn before Blake's. And the two options were head-to-head with Travis Rice or head-to-head with Elias Elhart. Like, what? Both, and like, you don't want to go against either of those guys, especially Travis. But I just kind of looked over at Blake, and he was just sitting there wide-eyed, and I was like, I really like Blake. He's a homie. I'm going to take Travis because this is also kind of perfect. Been a fan of his for years. He took me under his wing. He's helped me out. Now I'm at his contest. Like, let's go, Trav. So I just picked him.
Amazing.
Love it.
And then
no strategy.
I just want to know. I just want to know too. It seems like the most fucking nerve-wracking thing in the world. How's the start gate?
Really is, dude. It is, because it's like, I mean, maybe it's a little different for the guys who have contest experience. Maybe they're a little bit more used to those nerves and all the live cameras on you and everything. But it's crazy. Like, I'm not used to that type of spotlight. All of the high-level snowboarding I do is in the privacy of the backcountry with like 4 or 5 good friends. And all of a sudden you're on top of this run, and there's like 6 features in a row that you've never touched before. You've barely even looked at, with the exception of some drone footage. And you're having to guess the speed for all of this. How many toques am I going to need to get into this first jump? Yeah, man, it was nerve-wracking. It was crazy.
Buds, you got a Patreon?
Yeah, Gregory Picard asked, how do you mentally and physically prepare for a competition like the Natural Selection Tour? And how does that differ from your normal park pipe comp or being out shooting film?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, because I never have done any contests. My like physical prep for natural selection was not really much different than how I take care of myself throughout the winter. I just try and eat really good. I stretch every morning when I wake up for about 15 minutes, just a little wake up yoga. And I like foam roll and stretch after a day of boarding. And just try and drink lots of water, watch what I eat. As you get older, you can really notice things that like cause inflammation and like irritate old injuries. Like, so before natural selection last year and this year, I made like a solid effort for like the 2 weeks prior to like really avoid too much alcohol, avoid sugar, avoid a ton of carbs, anything that's going to cause inflammation and just make your joints feel like shittier. Like I just wanted to feel like my best self going into that. So I would say that's the only thing that differed for Natty Select is just watching my diet a little bit more.
What about mentally? Not much.
Mentally is not much you can do. I mean, mentally, you're kind of in a similar mindset all winter when you're filming a video part, and natural selection is a backcountry contest. So there's not really a ton you can do mentally. I mean, mind you, I didn't make finals this year, so maybe I could call Sage and probably take some mental points from him, because I feel like that guy's got the mental game dialed. Like he
just knows when to show up all of a sudden when the pressure's on. It's just, let's go.
Totally.
Flip the switch.
He can just turn it on. So maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I don't do a ton mentally. I keep on telling myself that I want to get into some form of meditation, because I'm a pretty like fast-paced person, sometimes act a little bit impulsively. So I think I could benefit from some meditation in the future.
Solid. And then fast forward to last year, you went to the Canadian stop at Baldface, and how'd you do at that?
Yeah. So then after the Jackson, so Travis like beat me. We had a tiebreaker, and it was actually like really close. I beat him in the first heat. He beat me in the second heat, and then our tiebreaker, we both tried to turn it up a notch, and we both were getting 2 runs of us just ragdolling down the whole course, getting judged against each other. And he did like a little bit better, and so he like squeezed by me. But because of COVID last year, they couldn't get other athletes to the Canadian event. So by default, I got a second chance. Got to go to the Baldface event. And it was a little different. The lodge was closed for COVID, so they couldn't like have anybody in there, or they couldn't have anybody on Scary Cherry. So what we did is we went to Jeff Pensiero, the founder of Baldface's new tenure, Valhalla, and we basically just like ran the contest on like untouched terrain, like no built features, basically just here's a backcountry run that you've never ridden before. Here are photos of it. Here's drone footage. Pick a line, and that's your contest run. And my strategy going into that and seeing how the first one was judged was like, get a lot of features into one run. Like even if you do something incredible at the top, if you do nothing else, like that's going to hurt your score. So like enter good and keep tricking down the whole run. It's the backcountry freestyle contest. Like get lots of tricks in.
You cab 5 to that step down.
Yeah. So on the scout day, I saw from across the valley with my binocs. Pro tip, binoculars are great for scouting. I just saw like a great step down that just looked like it lined up well into these little like fluty snow spines. So I went and set that up, and then I kind of was like looking at the lower portion of my run where I could link it together. And it was cab 5 off the step down, Miller flip on this pillow, then like a long traverse through the trees, because remember, this isn't a built run, it's just a random face. Go around this other cliff, back 3 under this rock, quick like front 3 off the toes off this bump, and then just a laid out backflip at the bottom to finish it off.
And then you ended up winning.
Yeah.
Everybody likes a nice backflip too, right?
Dude, backflip's kind of a crowd pleaser.
It is.
It's funny because it is
especially
really
right
like
at the
one
end
of the,
like that.
Totally. It is one of the easiest tricks, but it is like people love a good back.
This guy can do them on skis.
So what? Yeah,
I know. I've seen that.
So what happened when you won? Because I don't remember the like awards or anything like that. So
well, that was kind of like the bummer.
More low key, right?
Yeah, because of COVID, like there was no like there was no trophy, there was no like award ceremony, like. We didn't find out we won until the judges got to watch all the footage and review it. And basically I just got like a Zoom call set up, and I thought all of us were going to be on it and they were going to announce the winner. And when it popped up, it was just Travis Rice, Liam Griffin, one of the founders of Natural Selection, myself, and Robin Van Gyn. And so I was like, right away, I'm like, oh shit, like me and Robin won this. and then they like announced it and told us on a Zoom call, and we're like, you're going. You won a snowmobile, a Polaris snowmobile, and you won the all expenses paid trip to the Tordrillos to go compete in the finals with the rest of the field from Jackson.
Damn,
so
did you get a trophy?
Skip the rest.
I didn't get a trophy.
What the? No trophy.
No trophy from Baldface.
I've got a trophy.
Here.
Yeah,
we got a trophy the other day. Now I'm actually a little bit bullshit about the fact that those trophies look sick.
I was a little bummed, especially how sick the other trophies are. I think it's just like, dude, they've been firing at all cylinders to make that contest happen, and they're operating at a loss.
A big part of a contest
or a trophy.
Yeah, like I would have chosen.
I'll take the sled.
Maybe the sled's the trophy.
Oh, it's a Polaris though, right? No, I'll take the
Polaris
trophy.
is top.
I'll take the
notch,
trophy.
top notch snowmobile.
That's
right
what
there.
Skidoo riders say that haven't tried a Polaris.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I used to be a Skidoo rider.
Do or poo
but-
is
but-
really. He went poo.
Dude, I would have liked the trophy too, especially because like as a
Ski-doo-doo.
backcountry like video part guy who doesn't do
Yeah.
contests, you don't really get a lot of like physical proof of your accomplishments. You don't get a lot of like physical like here this is
X
something
Game medals and
exactly
stuff like that.
You have all this like digital archives and you have like a bunch of free
Get this
gear
guy a
and-
damn trophy.
Yeah, you're
huh?
not going to be able to go to the Olympics. A big line Olympics event's never going to happen.
No, exactly. So like yeah, it would have been sick to have a trophy to be like, oh, I won something. Like I've never won a contest in my life.
But so you advanced to the last round of this year then?
No.
No, okay.
That'd be sick. No, winning it last year solidified my spot on tour this year.
Oh, got you.
But I'm off tour now because I didn't make final because
Okay.
Jared beat me. Big Air Jared took me
That's right,
down.
finals
I
is
heard
like
you have
next
a.
week or
I heard
something.
you have a great story about your road to Natty Select this year.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. Okay, so have you guys had COVID yet?
Yes.
Like everyone's have it. I was a bit of a late
bloomer
bloomer
with COVID.
with COVID, but I like just thought I wasn't gonna get it. I was like, oh, man, that's crazy. Like 2 years in, still haven't got this shit. Start getting close to Natty Select this year, Jackson, and my girlfriend starts getting sick, and I'm thinking nothing of it, but she's stressing, and she's like, I gotta go get some rapid antigen tests. Like I'm freaking out. What if I have COVID? And I'm just like laughing at her, like, okay, babe. Anyways, I hear her just like go, oh no, in the bathroom upstairs, and she's like, I just hear her like deflate and like fall to the floor, and I'm like, hey babe, and she's like, get out, I'm positive.
All of a sudden she was extra sick.
Totally, yeah. And she's like, she got the little 2 lines on the plastic thing, and she's like, literally like, get out of our room. But at this point, I'm like, it's not how viruses work. Like I already have it. I already have whatever you have. I'm just, it hasn't showed up yet. But she made me quarantine from her because I had to go to natural selection in like 8 or 9 days from there. Anyways, we had another rapid antigen kicking around. I waited till that evening, took it, obviously negative, didn't feel any symptoms. But then I wake up the next morning and I started feeling symptoms. Took another one, still negative. And I was like, oh, like maybe I'm going to be fine. Sure enough, day 3, get another antigen test. There's the 2 lines. I'm positive. Like, okay, positive. How far out am I? And it's like 6 or 7 days, 6 days, I think, away from depart for Natty Select. Luckily, the CDC had like just changed the rules where it's like 5 days after and you're like not contagious anymore. So they say. So I was like, okay, I'm technically still good, but this is probably going to be a bit of a stressful experience. So I was like pretty sick for 2 days. Like I'd say 48 hours. I definitely like felt like I had a gnarly flu, and then it cleared up quickly after that. And I was just like congested. Like I was congested for like a full week after that. Travel day pops up. I show up at the airport for my flight. Still, you have to test in Vancouver to like even get on a plane. I'm still testing positive. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get on this plane. Like I can't, they're not even going to let me in this airport. So I call Liam from Natural Selection. I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like I'd already told him and T-Bird a couple days before the whole situation. Like I let him know when I got COVID, when my first positive test was. And they were like, yeah, well, the new rules is like, you're fine. Like you're going to be negative. Don't worry. I'm like, guys, I'm still positive. I can't come. Like I'm freaking out. And Liam was like, you are like legally free to travel. He's like, that's just YVR's, like Vancouver Airport specific rules. He's like, get in a car, cross the border, and go get on a plane in Bellingham. So I'm like, word, let's do this. So I get on my phone, book a flight out of Bellingham, just completely like no show, my Vancouver flight. My girlfriend was with me in the city. So I leave her at the side of the road with like, she's like, take my car, like just go, like I'll figure it out. So I just leave her in Vancouver and just start driving to Bellingham. She took like a cab to the bus stop or something and went back to Whistler. Get to the Bellingham airport, get on my plane there, sitting on the tarmac for a while. Like an hour and a half goes by. I'm like, what is going on? It's pretty foggy. And they're like, they announce a couple times they're waiting for the fog to clear. They finally deplane us and tell us all flights out of Bellingham airport are canceled. And it's like not going anywhere. So at this point, I am like defeated. I'm exhausted. I've like almost given up. I'm like, I'm not going to Natty Select. Like it wasn't meant to happen. And got to give a huge shout out to my lady, Lucy, because I called her and she was just like, absolutely not. Like you're going to be so bummed in a few days if you like make this decision right now. She's like, we are getting you there. And she was like my girl in the chair. So she's like, start driving to Seattle right now. Like I got you. And so she's on the computer at home, like calling, canceling flights that I just no-showed, booking different ones. And so she just booked me a 3rd flight out of Seattle. I rip into a park and fly with her car, like a fucking rally car driver, like bags out quickly, like running to the bus, running through Seattle airport, like pouring sweat, like just the most uncomfortable travel situation ever. Get to the till to like check my bags. The lady's just like basically laughing at me. She's like, these bags aren't making the flight. Like, she's like, you're way too late. She's like, you can get on the plane, but your bags are not going to get there. I'm like, whatever, fine. Anyways, show up to Jackson. My bags do show up, which was nice. That was the one bonus of the day. Danny Davis is there too. He was on like a late flight out of Salt Lake, and Zach Nagro from Burton drove us straight to the opening ceremony. And we literally walked in the building 5 minutes before like our names got called to go on stage and pick our heat.
Wow.
Yeah. So COVID right before Natty Select, crazy.
Let's give your lady just a huge air horn for that. Let's give her
air
a
horn
super.
for Lucy.
Just leaving her on the side of the road.
Yeah,
like,
what a trooper.
what a
Leaving her on the
boss.
side of the
I'll take
road
a
in
bus.
sweatpants. Like she's just like, just go, drive. I'm like, okay, bye.
That's a good lady right there.
Yeah, she's a keeper. She's a beauty.
Solid. So let's get into a little section we like to call Hot Takes. Hot Takes presented by Oakley Goggles. I've been rocking the Line Miner Pro. Highly recommend these Bad Larrys. And if you're looking at getting a helmet, I run the Mod 5. It's got a little boa in the back. Keep it tight on the noggin. So, yeah, new to the helmet game, but I'm certainly happy with my Oakley Mod 5.
It looked good on you.
Yeah, you're looking
Thank you.
good out there, and I've just noticed that your brain thanks you.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, because you used to come in all concussed, confused,
Oh, yeah.
and now you're just on a
lost
good run
in the grocery
Yeah,
store.
Just lost.
Thank you.
Short fuse and all that. Now
Oh,
you're
yeah.
your brain is clean now and feeling good. It's a good
Thank
thing.
you, buds. Now, let's start it off by doing what we like to do, the MJ, both male and female, of snowboarding. Who you got?
Travis Rice for male. For me, for sure. Like, obviously, because of the type of snowboarding he does, that might be a biased opinion, but yeah, just for so many reasons, he's such a legend. Female, I'm gonna go with MFR, Marie-France Roy. She is just such a rad human inside and out, and when she was kind of on top of the game, like she was doing stuff in the backcountry that no girls had even come close to touching at that time, and I think a lot of people kind of forget about how much of a legend she is.
Well said. Now, who's the most underrated snowboarder?
Most underrated, I mean, there's definitely a lot of underrated snowboarders that deserve credit and aren't getting it right now, but this kid, Bryn Alexander from Whistler, is so goddamn talented. And I don't know if he like wants it that bad, but if that guy starts getting hooked up, remember that name, because you're gonna see Bryn fuck some shit up.
Okay, I got a new one. When you're snowboarding, high backs over the pants or pants over the high backs?
High backs over the pants, just because I wear XL pants and I don't want those pants dragging. But I am old enough now that I used to snowboard with my pants over the high backs because that's what the pros did. Thought it was cool. But high backs over is way more practical.
Okay, Ski-Doo or Polaris?
Polaris.
Actually, the wrong answer, but okay.
I like giving wrong answers though. Polaris, because I used to be a Ski-Doo guy. Canadian company, was a diehard Ski-Doo guy, but when I started kind of getting hooked up with Polaris sleds, dude, their handling is just awesome. And like when it comes to like breaking trail through tight trees, can't touch Polaris. Might be wrong answer for Chris, but you know.
I think it's a great answer.
But Chris, sleds in Utah, a lot of open spaces, really easy sledding here.
Well, the thing
Chris,
is,
have you ever put
your
high backs, your pants over your high backs?
Never have.
Yeah, me neither.
Really?
No, but I want to just go back to Badoo versus Polaris for a second, because it's like you're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion's fucking wrong. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I'd like to go back to pants over the high backs for a minute, because I just think that's kind of psycho move to do that.
Well, if you watch a lot of old video parts, a lot of people still
They were
rock
doing it.
Yeah,
I always
totally.
got confused by it.
Yeah.
It might have just been like the like little crew of riders that I was with at that time and the pros that they were into. I can't actually remember for the life of me what
like
pros
who was
did
doing
it,
it.
but it was whoever was doing it. Like I remember my one buddy from high school, Mylan Spivak. He needs an air horn. Mylan's the man. He was one of my few like snowboard friends from high school, and I just remember him being like, Rasman, a little bit of high back exposed, unacceptable. Because like a little bit of my high back was sticking out, and I was like, oh shit, and like pants got to go over that.
Pants
so there was
over
like
it.
a short, 2 or 3 years where pants went over the high backs.
All right.
Okay, step down or wedge?
Step down.
Okay, who's got the best style on a snowboard?
Oh my goodness, that's a loaded question. This is a tough one because there's so many, but I'm gonna go with OG Nicholas Mueller before Nicholas Mueller started trying too hard to look like Nicholas Mueller.
Wow,
makes sense.
I like that. So you're talking like early absinthe. I guess it was absinthe the whole time, but like
Early absence.
future proof ish.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, future. Yeah, totally. Future proof, Neverland, pop, that kind of era. And with that said, I'm not saying that Nicholas's style before he disappeared off the face of the earth wasn't incredible, but I feel like the last few years he kind of started like almost eating up what everybody was saying about his style, maybe a little bit. That could be totally wrong, but it almost was like he was trying to look too much like himself, if that makes sense.
OG Freddie and Nico, when he's rocking like heavy posy, and that's just how he is riding before he's like, oh, I have good style. He's just like, this is how I look.
He's just doing it how he looks, and he's got super baggy kits, and he just looked dope. Like that Baba O'Reilly song in Japan. I think it's like Nico and it might be Kevin Pierce. It might be Nico and Kevin Pierce.
Yeah, it's a heavy track.
Segment is so sick.
Solid answer. If you could go heliboarding with 3 people in the world, just fun times, great conditions, who are you going with?
Yeah, I mean, I've been so fortunate. I've gone heli riding with like some of my idols, and I've been to Baldface Lodge with some of my idols and heroes. So I think now my answer has changed. I think I would take my dad, my 2 uncle, and my godfather. So I'm going to add one more person, heliboarding. And my uncles and my godfather are skiers. But those 4 people are fully responsible for like me loving the mountains and getting me out there a lot when I was a kid. And I would love to like share what I get to do today with them.
Amazing.
Great answer.
That's a great anscer. What about going heliboarding with Mike Tyson? We had it.
Man, I don't know about that. I don't know if he can really snowboard, man.
That was we actually had Young Dolly on the show, and we
answer.
asked him who he'd go with, and he said Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson would be kind of sick.
Yeah,
Like, I would
Mike
love to go
Tyson in the
heliboarding
heli.
with Mike Tyson. I feel like he'd be a lot of fun. Be laughing all day.
Iron Mike Tyson in the heli.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last one we're gonna hit is worst trend. What do you got?
Worst trend in snowboarding is, and it's not any specific people or groups or brands. It's kind of just like a mindset that sometimes picks up and carries momentum, is screaming and virtue signaling the inclusive card, but then actually not being inclusive and being really judgy and being cliquey. I think that's like the worst thing in snowboarding.
Well said.
I like that.
I like that too. That is a
What
solid
about
answer.
popping like Will Ferrell in the heli with you?
Yeah.
That would go.
Okay, yeah, that'd be sick.
That
Him
would
and
be
John C. Reilly, like Will
Yes.
Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Oh my God.
That
And
was
that's
in
it.
LA together.
That's it.
And like you don't even care that your day is so slow and not about
Yeah.
good.
They don't
boarding.
even have to get out of the heli.
Totally, they're just in there when you hop
in
in,
there when
cracking
you
jokes. That'd be sick. New answer. Sorry, Uncle and Dad, you guys are out. These 2 are in.
That's sick. They never get out of the heli. They just ride the whole time.
They're just in there. They're just in there getting tuned. They're just in there cracking beers while you're riding.
All right, this is a good time to get into another guest question from the one and only Jody Wachniak. Here we go.
Oh, amazing.
What's good, homies? Jody here from the Airtime Podcast. Big fan of the Bomb Hole, and I'm very excited to hear this episode. All right, my question for you, Chris, is you grew up surfing in Hawaii, and until recently, that was totally your shit. And then foiling came around, and now that's your shit. But let's be honest here. Why do you love foiling so much? And if you had to pick one, foiling or surfing, which one you picking? All right, peace.
It's a great question. Thank you, Jody.
Let's give him an air horn.
Give Jody Wachniak an air horn. Sorry for all the shots fired. You know I love you. You know it's all in good fun, man.
Gotta be careful. He's got a podcast, and he can come back at you easy. Yeah, once a week.
And he will. Actually, no, he's too nice to do that. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, like I've mentioned a couple times on the podcast, I love the ocean. I grew up going to Hawaii. Even when we were at home, I grew up going to like Washington to surf and Vancouver Island. Like I love surfing. I love being in the water. And when like this thing called hydrofoiling came into play and I finally like tried it and gave it a chance, I realized that it was a way to experience the ocean in a really positive way despite all conditions. Now, when you get decent at surfing, you kind of get to a point where it can be frustrating a lot of times. It's frustrating when you're learning, but it can be really frustrating when you're good enough to like want to shred a wave, because you're just often barely scratching the edge. Like the waves are kind of crap, or it's kind of crowded, and especially when you live in the mountains like me and I have to like travel somewhere or drive somewhere far to go surfing, you get there and you're just like, it's just like almost sick. And there's people everywhere. Foiling, the reason I like it so much is it lets you enjoy any body of water in any type of conditions. The hydrofoil catches like all this energy below the surface of the water, all this groundswell that you don't see and that is unrideable by a surfboard, and you can just like cruise all over the place. So all of a sudden, like a shin high wave feels like a 10-foot wave. And yeah, it literally feels like a hoverboard. I would encourage anyone to try it.
So explain
that's how that works.
Explain what it is exactly, because a lot of people don't know what hydrofoiling is.
So basically, it's like a carbon fiber mast that comes out of the bottom of a surfboard, and then the hydrofoil is literally airplane technology. It looks like a little glider airplane. The front wing creates lift, the fuselage for like balance and stability, and then the tail wing more stability. And hydrodynamics work the same way as aerodynamics. Water's just denser. So when that thing moves through the water, the front wing creates lift and it pushes the board out of the water. And instead of riding the surfboard, you're riding this little mini water airplane. And that there is so much like energy in an ocean that goes unridden, like all of this groundswell and all of these currents moving all over the place. And so you can like tap into that with the hydrofoil, and you're just hoverboarding around on what to other people looks like flat water, but there's actually a lot of energy there, and you're just like, feels like flying. It's crazy.
So you're just like pumping like with your front foot, and just it seems like a workout.
It totally is. And that's so the pumping is kind of just like an added thing that you can do with it that makes it fun, because you can like link waves together without getting off your board and paddling. The pumping is a thing that you can or can't do. You don't have to do it, but when you're going against the waves and against the current, you got to pump to keep that thing going. So you can kind of push the board down, the foil kind of pushes against the water and wants to like bounce back up at you, and you keep on doing that. It's like little jump squats, and you can just keep that thing going forever in flat water. But then once you turn around and you see like some groundswell coming, now you can pump like way past where the normal surf lineup is. Like you can pump like 200 meters past all the surfers sitting on longboards, and you'll see a little bump in the water coming. You turn around and you'll feel that foil lock into the groundswell, and then you're just chilling. No pumping, and you're just carving turns on this unbroken wave for like a kilometer.
How do you get up on one of
That's
those
what
things?
I'm wondering.
Yeah.
If you're in the waves, you paddle it just like a normal surfboard.
And then all of a sudden, zoing?
Yeah, and you paddle it, and you like, it wants to lift. It wants to like push you out of the water. So you paddle it like a normal surfboard, and you push really hard down on the front of the board to keep the thing from lifting. You pop up, and once you're on your feet, you allow it to lift. And yeah, like another thing with these things is people are like, they're dangerous and they look kooky, and it's like, so what if they like look a little kooky to you? Because surfing 100% looks
Yeah, that's
sicker.
what I was wondering.
Do
How do the
tricks.
surfers in the lineup feel about you out there?
Any surfer that tries it is all in. Any surfer that hasn't tried it or has been like defeated by it is all hate.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it is like on a foil, you don't want to be anywhere near the waves that the surfers like. Like a foil is like super sketchy on like a good surf wave.
You
like
don't want a big
pitchy
6-foot wave.
Yeah, you don't want like a steep, punchy, pitchy
fart
wave.
ripple.
Yeah.
You want a little fart ripple.
Fart ripple.
And even if it's like bigger, but it's mushy, that's sick for foiling too.
Yeah.
So, the beauty of foiling is you can be away from the crowds. Foilers that are idiots are ones that go and paddle out in the lineup and get in surfers' ways.
Inclusivity goes right out the window with hydrofoils.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Well, with surfing as well.
There's a lot of hate on it right now, but yeah, the hate all comes from people who haven't like tried it.
I want to talk to whoever started foiling. The name itself could use a little work.
Yeah, hydrofoiling.
It's just not that.
It's not that catchy.
It's not catchy.
It doesn't sound very cool.
Like I'm gonna go surfing. Like, that sounds cool.
Yeah, totally. Like you think they could?
Hydrofoiling.
I agree. You think they could have thought of a name like just a little bit more like. Yeah, it just sounds a little dope.
You got any better names?
No, but I'm gonna
maybe work
flex
on
my
that.
brain muscle on
You
that
guys should
one.
look for a name change in that.
Yeah, get a little international
Get a little
name
marketing
change.
tune-up going on that
And
thing.
to answer Jody's second part of the question, if I had two options, if there was a wave beside a mushy wave over here that is like a foil playground and little bumps all over the place, or like a shoulder high like barreling wave, 100% every day I would choose surfing. But with just normal conditions, the way it goes, if I had to pick one or the other, I'd pick foiling because I get to ride a board more in the water, foiling, than I do surfing. You get way more time on your feet. You get way more carves. that's the
Makes
answer.
sense.
Maybe there'll be a WST for foiling.
That would be tight.
And you
That'd be
could
crazy.
join it. And,
Well, this pro marketed foiler, dude, multi-sport athlete. Got into he's a little too old to get on the surf tour, but foiling.
Foiling, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's get a new name, though.
Yeah, totally. Let's change that shit.
All right, let's get into setups, Rasman. Let's talk about your board setup, bindings, angles, forward lean, the whole nine.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. So that is my most current pro model with Lib Technologies, the LibTech Rasman. It is an early release, so it's available in stores now, but it is a 2023 model, so it will be on shelves all next year too. I ride the 161 in the backcountry and the 159 on resort and in park. I'm about 5'10" and 175 pounds. My angles, so those are Flux bindings. I've been riding for Flux for almost a decade now. Love them. That's the Flux XF, and it's essentially just like a simple, solid binding, pretty stiff base plate, but nice and flexy high back, so you can still like tweak and not sacrifice style in your grabs. Front foot positive 15, back foot negative 3, 22.5 inches wide.
Solid setup now. Tuning edges, leave them.
You know what's really funny about that is just from historical habit of seeing like Matt Beardmore do it, seeing Travis Rice do it before. I would always detune the four corners a little bit, just a bit, take them down, because in my theory was like, oh, you won't catch on jumps when you're spinning. And then I heard Blue Montgomery's podcast, legend, love that podcast, and he was like making fun of people who do that to like a brand new board that's tuned properly, and now I'm not going to do that anymore. So thanks, Blue, you fucked me up.
You might zing on a Cab 9er though if you
Totally. If I zing on a Cab 9, it's Blue's fault.
You waxing that bad boy often, or what? Are you like a wax every sesh guy?
I'm like not every sesh, but like as soon as it starts looking dry, I wax it. I wax your board often because you do not want to be fighting for speed. It's way easier to ditch speed than it is to fight for speed. So
well said.
Wise words.
And your base will last a lot longer. Like when I store all my snowboards, even though I get snowboards for free, I store all of my snowboards loaded with wax because it keeps that PTEX healthy.
Damn, that's a
smart move right there.
Smart move, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now we got to ask, as far as what's next. What do you got next on the docket?
Next, I mean, I love filming video parts. Like it's just makes me happy. It's like
it's an addiction.
It's an addiction. You get that clip high, man, dude. Nothing's better than that clip high. That 12-hour clip high doesn't last very long, so you got to keep on going out for more.
Feed the beast.
Feed the beast.
Chasing the dragon.
Yeah. So I really like filming. So you're probably going to keep on seeing video parts from me as long as I'm a professional snowboarder. We are kind of not rebranding Manboys, but we're evolving Manboys. Like as all of us get a little bit older, we're going to keep on filming and be the athletes in the project. But you're gonna start to see some new young blood in those projects. We really want to like help out the next generation of backcountry snowboarders in our area. Really help lift them up. So yeah, more Manboys projects, more Manboys movies. Natural Selection Tour. I don't know if I'm on the tour next year or not. I might have to take a year off because they're going to try and give other deserving athletes an opportunity at it. But the year after, I'd love to be back on that tour. And when I am, it'll be a huge focus of mine as well.
Beautiful. And lastly, we always like to see if you want to throw out any thank yous before we wrap this thing up.
Man, there's too many to thank. Definitely going to forget some, but thank you to my family, mom, dad, brother, sister, friends, all the Manboys. Thank you to any sponsors that have supported me along the way, snowboard magazines. And yeah, my current brands. Thank you, Rip Curl, LibTech, Spy Optics, Flux Bindings, Boardroom, Pow Gloves. You guys are the shit, and I really appreciate the support. And yeah, it's awesome that you let me keep doing what I love.
Amazing. Where can people find you, social media, all that baloney?
My Instagram handle is just at Chris Rasman, super easy. And if you want to check out what the Manboys is, our production company, if you just search the Manboys on YouTube, you got most of our movies and video series on there.
Amazing. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to say thank you to all of our listeners or people watching on YouTube. If you're not already, don't be afraid to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes via audio or video. That being said, thanks to anybody that bought some merch, anybody that has supported us, that listens. You guys fucking rule. So thanks again. We got another episode coming at you next Wednesday.
Thanks for having me, you guys. That was fun.
Yeah.